So, hi. First thing I will say. Give me 1 second. There we go. Right. So, hi, stream. Tell you what. Something else we should do here. 1 second. There we go. Let me do this. Let me do this. Hello, stream. Hi. Thank you for the resubs. Appreciate it. Right. Hello, stream. It's been a while since I've seen you. It's been a while since you've seen my face. But here I am. I'm still alive. Right. So, first thing we're going to say, because I already know that people are going to potentially take the piss and potentially not. But the first thing that we'll say is obviously we're going to completely ignore any really weird numbers. You've seen a few thousands of percent, in particular for the Bladestorm extension, but we're going to completely ignore that, and we're just going to look at what each data mine talent and ability is actually going to do without really focusing too much on the numbers, unless they seem somewhat reasonable. So that's the first thing that we're going to say. We're literally going to go from top to bottom. I know all of you will have been looking at this already, but we're going to go from top to bottom, and we're going to look at everything, and we're going to have a discussion. Now, obviously, it's really early. It's all data mine stuff, so half of this shit is probably not finished, and we probably won't see a actually released talent tree for probably another week or so. The fact that this can be data mined already, if they're able to data mine all of the other talent trees or all of the other talents, then, you know, who knows what we're going to get next. Maybe we get all of them at the same time. I think it's pretty unlikely, though. But maybe we get the rest of them at the same time. But chances are we'll see more talents next week, like actual finished talent trees next week. And that's probably when another wave of alpha invites will go out as well. And we'll see what we get based on that. But for now, because we love hyping and we love speculation and we love talking, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a nice conversation about the shit that's been data mined for today. Right. So, intro and disclaimers, we kind of know pretty much what this is going to go through already, but let's go through it. In data mining the first Dragonfly Alpha build, we've discovered many spells that have Requires Warrior in the tooltip. We believe that these are spells that will be on the Dragonflight Warrior talent tree, as many of them are spells from previous expansions that have been recreated. It would be really weird if they weren't. Warriors in particular have a bunch of passive stat talents that look placeholder. I've noticed that as well. The first section goes through these new warrior spells, and since this is data mining, some of these spells may be outdated, may be updated, or flat out removed in the future. It's likely that some of these will not be talents. We've tried our best to clarify these into the general class tree and a spec-specific tree, but some are ambiguous, and we've tried our best. The second section goes through base changes, through old spells such as base abilities and Azerite traits. Some of the base ability changes could be offset by the talent tree, so don't freak out yet. Don't freak out yet, chat. Don't. In addition, any old data mined abilities that have received updates could also be returning talents as well, because they've received changes in Dragonflight. While we don't know for sure, hopefully experience a taste of what could be on the Dragonflight Warrior tree. Great. Don't freak out. That's all I got out of that. Don't freak out. So, now, I'm going to assume that the lot of you have already seen pretty much everything that this tree has to offer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh it one more time, just in case they've updated anything. Okay, doesn't look like they have. Now, it looks like we've got Spear of Bastion back. So basically, the chances were that we were going to get Conqueror's Banner, which is weird. The fact that this can be data mined already, if they're able to data mine all of the other talent trees or all of the other talents, then, you know, who knows what we're going to get next. Maybe we get all of them at the same time. But chances are we'll see more talents next week. Now, from what we've seen, obviously, it looks like we've got Spear of Bastion back. So basically, obviously, the chances were that we were going to get some Covenant abilities in Dragonflight, and it looks like where I thought we were going to get Conqueror's Banner, which it looks like we haven't got, they've decided to give us the topside part of Condemn, and that's it from Condemn, which is weird, and they're giving us Spear of Bastion. Now, I did not expect to get Spear of Bastion back. I really didn't expect that, because that's been really problematic, in particular in PvP. Like, that perma route, effectively, is kind of mad. But I'm not against having it back. It's actually a really nice ability, and obviously we've had a hell of a lot of use for it. Now, the thing about it is that it doesn't look, unless it's a bit further down, it doesn't look like we're getting the increased crit damage from standing inside the spear. Which is... I guess it's fine. It's just going to feel a bit worse to use. But I guess it's also kind of good because it means that we don't actually have to, you know, sit inside the spear, which would also be nice. So unless it's a bit further down, it looks like we actually don't have to sit inside it, so we have the freedom to actually just use it as we want, which is kind of neat. General class talent, I'm not sure. You know, I can deal with this. I feel like I would prefer to have spear. I didn't expect to get it back, but I feel like I would prefer having spear back than having Conqueror's banner back, unless they rework the banner. Like, unless they were going to rework the banner, then yeah, whatever. If this is like a permanent passive, my assumption is it's going to be in the general, in like the warrior talent tree. But imagine if that was just a permanent passive for all 3 specs, like a baseline passive for all 3 specs. Don't think it is because executes a talent. Oh, if executes a talent, then yeah, absolutely not. In which case, is it in the... Okay, we'll go through it in a moment. But I also kind of don't mind having that back. There's some really good... Like, we saw it on Denathrius. There's potentially really good use for having execute above 80% as well. So, we'll see. But I kind of don't mind having that back either. That's kind of neat. Speculative Warrior General Class Talents. Increase versatility by 2%. That's just, yeah, Berserker Rage, but now Berserker Shout for some reason. Brutal Vitality, we know what that does. Critical Thinking, Cruel Strikes, just a bunch of flat damage, flat crit increases. What else we got? Crushing Force, damage, shield slam increased by 25%. Fine. Intimidating Rock and percent 200%. I've never understood why. I don't understand why this exists. At least from a PvE aspect, I don't understand why this exists. Because I can't think of a single time where I would want to be able to hit my target for longer before the fear actually breaks. But I guess it is literally just a PvP thing. Now, this is the first thing that really stood out to me when I was looking down the list a little bit earlier. This honestly looks kind of cool. This also looks kind of cool. The cooldown being reduced by 1 second is whatever, but actually having some kind of benefit for kicking something again, it feels like there are so many classes that had conduits that would actually give them something for kicking. Like you had the DK one, which gave them the runic power back for kicking. The Hunter one, which gave them focus. Like, back in the day, weren't we one of the first ones to have a reward for kicking something anyway, with the old Rude Interruption? If I remember right. There might have been a bunch of us at the time, but like, I know we were one of the first ones to have it. I've had an interrupt effect too. I don't remember what theirs was. That's the Emily Soulbind? Yeah, that's true, it actually is. But I like having it. I like it. It's always good to have something for... Because, like, interrupt... in a game with a relatively low skill floor, like WoW, it's nice to have a reward for doing something well in the game, if you see what I mean. Like, actually using your kick ability and getting a benefit from it, it seems like a really good trade-off. You know what I mean? It's like, should be rewarded other than just, you know, the damage didn't go through of whatever spell was being cast. I don't know. I like that. I like that a lot. Even if it is just 5%, I'll take it. It's 5%. I kind of like that. I like that a lot. Does make me think that there'll be other classes that get something similar, but that's fine. That's fine. We like this. Yeah, Dauntless Duelist. Again, now, obviously there's some stuff that could still be taken away. If we are genuinely getting Dauntless Duelist back, that's kind of big. That's kind of big on, like, any single target fight. That's kind of huge. It's just a flat 3% damage increase. It's effectively 3% versatility for free. Like, That's pretty fucking big. That's pretty big. I find it interesting. Something that I noticed when looking through, and I'm sure you guys noticed it as well, is that there seem to be a bunch of possible talents that we're getting that were just general like Covenant tree talent things in Shadowlands. And I haven't really noticed that on any of the other talent trees so far, so either it is literally just placeholder stuff for the time being, or we are getting a fair share of just general Covenant abilities. Or Covenant Soulbind passives is what I mean. I like it. I like it a lot. Obviously, it's going to have absolutely no use in AoE, so seeing where that's going to be on a talent tree will be really interesting to see whether it's easily avoidable or if there's stuff that comes after it that'll actually be, worthwhile having. Something tells me that something that strong, if it is part of the warrior talent tree, it's got to be near the bottom somewhere, so chances are it's something that you actually have to make an effort to talent into. Anyway, we'll continue. Parry by 3%, mastery by 2%, yeah, whatever. That's all potentially just filler stuff. Increases damage while dual wielding by 5%. Sure, fine. Increases stamina and armor by 5% and haste by 2%. Alright, I mean, obviously, mostly prop-based, you would imagine, but there could actually be a reason to take that. There could actually be a reason to take it as DPS, which actually isn't too bad. Increases stamina by 5. There it is. There's the execute talent. Yeah, you're right. Interesting. So they have actually made execute a talent. Okay. Sure. Alright. Exploit the weakness Tactician's chance to trigger is increased as if you spent 260% more rage. Now, haha, we were talking about this in the Discord just a little bit earlier, and the theory is, or my theory was, that this means that Tactician is going to be a flat passive for all 3 specs. And Tactician will refresh Overpower for arms, possibly Revenge or Shield Slam for props, and then probably Raging Blow for Fury. And Raging Blow makes sense because that version of Tactician would effectively be Hack and Slash. Obviously, it didn't look like we're actually getting Hack and Slash itself as a talent, so Tactician would be just a replacement for Hack and Slash. So it would make sense. So that'll be quite interesting. I like that idea. That'll also make Tactician potentially a little bit less annoying for arms as well. So, yeah, that could be quite good. And honestly, Hack and Slash feels alright. In the current playstyle where so much revolves around Raging Blow, then, yeah, losing Hack and Slash would feel awful, but getting it back will probably feel quite good. Makes it flow a little bit better. So you meant to be Fury's new mastery? No. I mean, it'll literally be Tactician for all 3 specs and just refund different things, Fast footwork, movement speed increased, yeah, whatever. Increases strength, armor by 5, crit chance by 2. Or a lot of this looks placeholder, but could be wrong. Unless they are genuinely just giving us a ton of stat increases in the general warrior talent tree, which I also wouldn't particularly be against. I wouldn't really be against it. Now, this is the first example that I was talking about at the very start of the stream where I said we're going to ignore numbers which don't quite make sense. This is the first example of that. Unless that part is true. Right. Now, okay. Could this be... Completely ignore where it says while using two-handed swords or axes. Completely ignore that part. Look on this where it says requires one-handed melee weapon. Could this be the new passive that tries to make single-minded fury good? Completely ignore this part. Completely ignore that. Could that be the thing that they try to make single-minded fury good with? Which would turn single-minded fury into just stack... Would it even be stack as... Yeah, just stack as much crit as possible if you're using swords or axes. Since there's two of those, I can't see it. There was a second one. Where was the other one? Was the other one... We're going to go down a bit, because I don't remember where the other one was. Is it even in this list? It's not, is it? Sharpened Blades class talent? There. That one. See, that again makes me think... I honestly think that will not be while using two-handed swords or axes. It will be while using one-handed weapons. And that will be while using two-handed swords or axes. I honestly think that might be it. Because there's no requires one-handed weapons on Sharpened Blades. But there is on Frenzied Flurry. Oh! Oh! Okay. 100% seems too much. Looks like the SMF replacement but can benefit Prot Warriors now. Yeah, obviously it would benefit Prot Warriors as well. But when they're actively tanking, precisely how much execute can they use? You know? Ah, I think I might be onto something there. That was a really good spot. Good job, chat. We did it. Let's go. Right. Impale increases crit damage. Yeah, great. Furious Blows increases the damage of Bloodthirst, Slam, Shield Slam, Whirlwind by 10%. Cooldown of Pummel, Shield Slam, Overpower, and Bloodthirst reduced by 1 second. Thank you, Tristan. Does that mean that we could effectively take Pummel to a 10-second cooldown? I guess so. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Alright, sure. Why not? Inspiring Presence. I honestly didn't think we would get this back either. I really suspected that we would not get this back. Like, Rally is already one of the most powerful raid cooldowns in the game. This also suggests that Rallying Cry is going to be baseline for Warriors straight up. But this is just going to keep it being a tremendously powerful raid CD. Meaning that stacking Warriors might still be a thing going forward. Jesus. Yeah, okay, sure. One-handed specialization increases leech. Fine. Would be good for single-minded fury again if they really wanted us to play it. Can you imagine that 10% leech plus 100% crit chance from this? Can you imagine? Actually fury unkillable and execute. Single-minded fury unkillable and execute. Oh my god. That'd be mad. Maximum rage is increased by 30. Now I don't know about this. I'm not sure it's going to be anything all that tremendous. Unless they're going to make a fundamental change to how arms generates rage, or the amount of rage it can generate, I just don't think this is going to be all that great. Pain and Gain, that's just the That's just that conduit, which we're getting baseline or in talent, apparently. Sure. Increases haste. 100% a lot of these raw stat ones, surely they're placeholder. Surely they're placeholder. I can't imagine them not being placeholder. Overcap Rage on Bladestorm? Yeah, true, but it's a very specific situation to have an entire talent dedicated to stemming it. You know what I mean? 100% increased crit doesn't necessarily mean 100% crit. It could just mean that if you have 20% crit, it goes to 40% crit for execute. You're true, but they don't normally word things that way, right? Normally, if they specify a percentage, it's normally because they're adding that percentage on instead of them saying that it's doubled. You know? So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I still like my idea that this is going to be the new single-minded Fury talent. Honestly, I really do. Enjoy Shockwave coming. Yeah, well, we've looked through that already, and it's not looking good. But anyway, yeah, thank you for the 36 months. Right, where were we? Overwhelming Rage. Yeah, okay, we were down to here. Increases your weapon's physical damage by 10%. I mean, there's never a time that you're not going to play it. Increases armor by 10. Sure. Seismic Reverb coming back for all 3 specs. Do we care about this? Like, it's so bad. If they are genuinely keeping it to only hitting 1 additional time, it's horrific. Like, it's just not good. Unless they buff the damage of Whirlwind. But we'll see. There's some buffs to Whirlwind damage. If there are buffs to Whirlwind damage, that's big. That's big. Also, I guess it's not in a legendary slot, it's in a talent slot, which makes it a little bit easier to achieve and a little bit less punishing to take. So that actually might not be as bad as I think. Okay, interesting. While using two-handed swords, we went through this one before. Pretty sure that's just going to be the two-handed equivalent. Because the numbers make a little bit more sense, especially when you're going to have more strength from two-handed weapons and you're going to have more weapon damage anyway. Shattering Throw. Oh yeah, if you've looked through the Evoker stuff, by the way, Evokers are getting Shattering Throw. Just pointing that out. Except I don't think it removes immunities. I think it just does extra damage to shields. I didn't see that it removed immunities, but either way. This was the main thing that I was hoping would not come back. It really is the main thing that I would hope was not coming back. Why? Signet sucks ass because of how much RNG is involved. When Signet works well, it's tremendous. When it works badly, it's horrific. And one of those feelings is a lot stronger than the other, and it's easily the horrific side. I don't mind it when using Bladestorm, because no matter what you get, there's value. But when you're using Recklessness, or when you're using Avatar in an AoE or single target situation, if you don't get the right buff, you fucking hate it. We need a way to control it. Yeah, but how do you control it? How do you implement a condition that controls Signet? Because even in an AoE situation, you might want, say, Avatar from Recklessness instead of Bladestorm. If there's, like, priority damage to be done. Just high roll 100% of the time. Yeah, sure. I'm going to wait for a moment, because I see there's ads playing. We can talk about general things in a moment. In fact, we can talk about Signet a little bit more while there's ads going on. Yeah, no, Signet's just bad. Signet's just bad because of the Signet's just bad because of the randomness of it. If there was a little bit more of a deterministic way to actually use Signet, then it would be fine, but there isn't. Abilities casted prior would be a good thing. See, a choice node wouldn't make sense, because there will be some times where you want to have both procs effectively within the same fight, just at different times. Look at, like, Anduin, for example. Anduin's a good example. Because when you pop your cooldowns on pull, you want Avatar from the Recklessness. You don't want the Bladestorm, it's just a waste. But when you come to the intermission, you want the Bladestorm. You 100% want the Bladestorm, you know? It's like... There will be those times where you want one or the other within the same fight. I like the idea of it being based on a previously cast ability. That would be interesting. Almost assuming the Signet is either an end node or deep behind other AoE choices. I'm kind of assuming that as well. I mean, the assumption has to be that unless... Unless we're getting Bladestorm as a baseline ability, based on what we can see at the moment, unless we're getting Bladestorm as a baseline ability for all 3 specs, you'd have to assume that Bladestorm is going to go into the Warrior class talents if that is just a Warrior class talent with Signet, and that Signet will come right after it. Or all 3 specs are getting Bladestorm. Baseline. I'm not sure which I would prefer. I almost feel like I would prefer having it as a talent. Almost. Just hype the crit focus gameplay looks like it's coming back to ARMS. I like big numbers. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Did you miss something big? Now, we just talked about Signet a little bit more. I held off for a moment because I saw that there were ads. But we'll continue now if the ads are over. Rather have Execute baseline and Bladestorm talent? Yeah, kind of. But then again, like, at the moment, so every class needs to have one big offensive cooldown, baseline. If that's still Bladestorm for ARMS, then would almost make sense if they just gave Bladestorm to all 3 specs baseline anyway. Like Execute being a talent, and what about Massacre? To be fair, this is completely unfinished. This is completely unfinished. And we might still get Massacre in one of the talent trees somewhere. But it's also a potential that we don't get Massacre for the reason that Raikön said, because we're getting a topside Execute and a bottomside Execute in Execute, then yeah, we might actually just not get Massacre at all. Which is, you know, okay, I guess. Increases leech by 4%, yeah, whatever. Spell Reflect, great. I love that we are keeping this, by the way. They could have easily decided no, but God bless that we're keeping Spell Reflect. Great. Storm Seal, Ravage should last 30% longer. Whenever an enemy dies during Bladestorm, extend its duration by 10,000%. Yeah, obviously not a properly implemented number. But this is interesting. Whenever an enemy dies during Bladestorm, would that... You're never going to extend that. You're never going to extend it. The way that it's used right now, it's never going to get extended. Because you use it at the start of a pack when nothing is going to die. You're actually going to be waiting to use it until something's about to die. Anduin, obviously, yes, it would just be a permanent Bladestorm, but it's such a niche situation that how often are we going to get that going forward into Dragonflight? Why would you Bladestorm when Enrage runs out? Well, yes. I mean, obviously, that's another thing. Thinking about it during with as Fury with Enrage, then, yeah. Obviously, that's another thing entirely. But thinking about it, even just for arms specifically, like, the timing of using it is going to be really weird. Really weird. It would suggest that we're supposed to Blade Storm at the end of a pull, which I'm not too sure about. I'm assuming that these two are going to be together, and that the tooltip is just going to change based on if you have Blade Storm or Ravager. I'm assuming that's why they're under the same name. But if that was the case, then surely it would be the same as with Seismic Reverb. Wherever that was. There. Although I guess not, because it's an entirely different ability, isn't it? Yeah, I guess it's literally just gonna... So Blade Storm will extend if something dies, and Ravager just gets a flat 30% extra duration. Which is 13 seconds instead of 10. Might be reverse, Blade Storm lasts longer and Ravager extends. Part of me feels like that would make more sense. It's still gonna fuck Fury, because your Enrage will just time out. We've confirmed Blade Storm baseline for all. I mean, it would suggest it, right? I mean, the same thing is that... Would it even... Even Signet almost... Well... Bloody hell, I just started chucking it down with rain. No, the warrior talents aren't that bad weather. You don't need to rain. Oh well, whatever. Signet would suggest that Blade Storm is at least baseline for arms, I would guess. Because you've got Wreck for Fury, and Avatar I'm going to assume is going to be for Prot. I can't imagine that Avatar is going to be baseline for... I mean, maybe Avatar is baseline for arms as well, but... I guess Storm of Steel almost guarantees that Blade Storm is baseline for everyone. Unless, again, Blade Storm is going to be a general warrior talent and just isn't included yet, which is still very possible. There's no way this is finished. There's no way this is finished. Scroll all the way down, you can see what spells are baseline that we found thus far. I'll do it in a moment. I want to go through everything first, and then we'll like refresh and see if there's anything that's been added. Oh, yeah, now... Thunderclap in the general warrior talent trees, so you could arguably take Thunderclap as Fury or Arms, potentially, depending on where it is. Interesting. Also, now, I didn't spot this in the previous data mining. I didn't spot this. Is this just going to be a heroic throw replacement? It's an AoE heroic throw. That's kind of sick. That's kind of sick. I like that. I like that a lot. That's going to be really nice for Prot. That's going to be really nice for Prot if they can still spam it. That's kind of sick, that. I like that. Increased damage level with 200 weapons, great. Versatility by 2%. Okay, let's get to the more interesting stuff. The Arms Warrior talents looked the most interesting to me from what I remember. Damage Slam Wilm by 25%, yeah, who cares? Damage of Deep Wounds, Rend, and Thunderous Roar's bleed effect. Now, I haven't seen anywhere what Thunderous Roar is. I don't know if anything's been updated to actually show what Thunderous Roar is going to be. But perhaps this is going to be the new baseline arms cooldown. Potentially. Do I have alpha? I can check if I have it. I haven't had it so far. Barbaric Training plus Seismic Reverb. True. To be fair, it does look like there are a few things that are increasing whirlwind damage. Yeah, still no alpha. Close that again. Oh, hello. Looks interesting. Oh yeah, that's very interesting. Oh yeah. I'm glad we found that. Back to where we were. Deep Wounds Thunder Assault all last 25% longer. Okay. While using two-handed maces or pole arms. Right, so... Now... I have a bit of a concern with this. There is no way... Fuck weapon specs, precisely. There is no way that, let's assume that what I said before is correct, and let's assume that Frenzied Flurry is just for one-handed weapons, because honestly, that tooltip screams that that's going to be for one-handed weapons to me, and we completely ignore that part of it. Because clearly the two-handed version is going to be sharpened blades, because the numbers make more sense. Because you're going to have naturally higher weapon damage, you're going to have more strength, so it kind of makes sense in my head. So let's assume that this is the sword and axe version. There is no way in hell that between blunt instruments and sharpened blades that they are going to be perfectly balanced. That there is no difference between them at all. There's no shot that that happens. So, that then means that every single raid in Dragonflight, raid specifically, because dungeons will have enough... You would assume that the dungeons are going to have enough loot variety that you'll be able to get whichever weapon is going to be the biggest the biggest DPS increase regardless. But it would suggest that in raids you're going to have of the same item level at least a two-handed sword or axe and a two-handed mace or polearm. So if you take, for example, like the current design of raids at the moment, where the last two bosses or last three bosses, depending on the size of the raid, give increased item level loot, it means that you would have to have one of either a two-handed mace or polearm or one of a two-handed sword or axe. Because if you don't, and the one that is the best DPS and the one that is the best for DPS does not drop at max eye level, it just fucks it. It just fucks it entirely, and you can't get to the class's full potential, which is going to feel garbage. It's like when they added in single-minded fury again. It's a little bit of flavor that is completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. This doesn't need to happen. It's not interesting, because one or the other is going to be better balanced. I assure you they're not going to get them balanced properly together. Don't think they need to be perfectly balanced as long as there continues to be one max eye level, two-hander each patch, and the weapon specs are closely enough balanced that that weapon is always the best choice. It's just variety patch by patch depending on what two-hander the last boss drops. Well, okay, sure, it's not about perfect balance, you're right, but it is about them being close enough that it's not going to feel terrible if you don't have one of the right item level. You see what I mean, though, right? How does it work for Fury? You can equip 2 swords and 2 axes, or 1 each from them. I mean, you would be able to equip 2 swords or 2 axes, but this one wouldn't matter anyway, because this is an Arms Warrior specific one, and I don't think there is a Fury alternative. So Fury is literally, by the looks of it, Fury's only going to have sharpened blades. Meaning that if that's true, Fury only wants to use swords or axes. That sounds like it's going to have problems to me. That sounds like it's going to have problems, man. It really does. Or they just remove the talents and not have to worry about it. It would be the best option. Because like I said, it's exactly like when they added single-minded fury. And they only did it because people were complaining that they wanted to use one-handed weapons again. And rather than just letting people transmog to one-handed weapons, they thought, we'll add back this passive talent that we remember from back in the day, and then that'll make people happy. It hasn't really been featured at all. I remember seeing one log on Stone Legion Generals from a Chinese warrior who was using single-minded fury, and it was some legendary. I don't remember what legendary he was using. I don't think it was seismic reverb, but I can't remember. How would you get an alpha invite for today, or is it just streamers and content creators? It's not just streamers and content creators, but they are mostly the people that are getting it. There are some very, very lucky random people who would get it as well, but have to be very, very lucky. Does 2 axes or swords benefit from sharpened blades? I don't know. I don't know exactly how it will work. I don't know whether having 2 swords or 2 axes or a sword and an axe would basically make it apply twice, but I doubt it. I think just equipping one will make it apply, and then it won't stack up after that. People forced into weapon swapping mid-pull. That's effectively what could lead... That could end up happening for arms, yeah. It could genuinely end up happening for arms. That you actually swap to a mace, hit Colossus Smash, and then go back to an axe or sword during the Colossus Smash. Which would just be so jank. Well, it wouldn't be that jank. You'd effectively just put it into a macro, but... How unnecessary. How unnecessary. I don't know. Doesn't seem good. Mortal Strike has a 20% chance to instantly reset its own cooldown. I didn't see this before either. Wow, that's gonna rage starve. That's gonna rage starve us even more. I'm not sure I like that. Kinda mortal combo, but unless it also refunds the rage, that's gonna be horrific. If they wanted that to properly be Mortal Combo, then it also needs to refund the rage. And then they need to... Well, I was going to say that, and then they need to cap it, so... But they don't. Or maybe it's Battlelord 40% rage cost? Potentially. Potentially. I doubt it, though. Honestly, this will be fine if it also refunds the rage. The full rage cost. Not just part of the rage cost, the full rage cost. And then I think that'll be fine. But, yeah. Unless there's better ways or more ways to actually game rage for arms, that's just not gonna feel good. Because the thing is, if it resets, you're going to want to use it again immediately, because I can only assume that the entire spec pre-execute is going to revolve around Mortal Strike again. Unless they really are gonna... Unless with Thunderous Roar, they really are gonna make it a bleed spec between Deep Wounds, Rend, and Thunderous Roar. Which I guess they could. I'd rather it revolved around Mortal Strike, though. But we'll see. If that was to refund the rage, I think it would be much better, and I think it would be really good. Mortal Strike abilities. This was really interesting. Your Mortal Strike abilities against enemies above 30% health have a very high chance to apply Fatality. I'm assuming that's going to be a permanent debuff. When an enemy falls below 30% health, your next execute inflicts 100% of attack power physical damage per stack. That is gonna be humongous. You know what this is? It's a Arms Warrior specific... It's an Arms Warrior specific ink pod. Sounds interesting for PvP? Oh god, yeah. People are gonna get one shot. People are gonna get one shot. Approximately 8 procs per minute! I'm sorry, how many procs per minute? Huh. Alright. So assuming in a 5-minute fight, you've got execute at 1 minute and 20 left in the fight, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Assume it is actually giving 8 procs a minute. 24. You're looking at almost 30 procs to 3000% of attack power on the next execute. And I did see what you were saying before in chat about the fact that it's 30% when our execute starts at 20. That's a good point. but I can only assume that sudden death is still going to exist. I can only assume that sudden death is still going to exist. But it also gives you a 10% window to regain all of your cooldowns, assuming that we're going to have, like, again, Colossus Smash, which we will probably have, Avatar, which I assume that we'll have, and whatever the fuck Thunderous Roar is, if it's got some kind of buff effect. It gives you that 10% to play with to get all that back, and then just slam and incredibly hard execute. Oh god, if that crits. Oh. You remember that video that the Skyhold put up on YouTube when they were going through Eternal Palace with only warriors and everyone had Ink Pod? It's gonna be that all over again. Oh. I'm actually really excited for ARMS. I don't know why, but I'm really excited for ARMS. I'm really excited to test ARMS more than Fury. Fucking hell. Why does it say Mortal Strike abilities? Because it'll just be a alpha tooltip and it'll be really poorly worded. That'll be it. Or Massacre for all specs. Potentially. I still think it's unlikely, though. Tan is free from Fury's mind control. I was never under Fury's mind control. I still enjoy ARMS. I just don't enjoy it at the moment. It's garbage. Maybe default ARMS talent is execute increased to 30%. Possibly. I doubt it. But possibly, you never know. 50 stacks of fatality, your execute gets parried. I hope there's one boss that has just a humongous health pool. Oh god. Some, like, 12-minute boss fight. Oh. Jesus fucking Christ. That's going to be so fun, honestly. Healed by violence, we know what that is. Heal for 30% of the damage dealt by deep wounds. I hate seeing the deep wound still exists, and I can only assume that that's still going to be our mastery. But, yeah, whatever. Super Strikes lasts 15% longer. 15% longer. Oh, is that it? So it's like, what, 2.25 extra seconds? Is that right? Nah. It's not gonna matter. It's barely gonna matter. Replace Stormends. Oh yeah, this was kind of cool as well. It's basically Merciless Bone Grinder, but instead of only Whirlwind, it's Whirlwind and Cleave. Now I like that. I like that Cleave is added in there as well. And yes, I saw that in chat before as well. It does suggest that Cleave might be baseline. If it is, great. Great, that's what we needed. If it is baseline for ARMS, fantastic. I love that. But, yeah. And the Ravager version is still potentially looking like it's 7 seconds, but, yeah, whatever. But honestly, yes, Cleave. Oh, please let that be baseline. And yeah, obviously, ARMS gets Sinful Surge as well, apparently. So, sure. Why not? Why not? Ravager Bone Grinder version sucks. Always has done. Always has done, because it's still proccing when Ravager ends. Now, if they take the suggestion that I've had for 2 patches in a row and take that forward into Dragonflight and start it when Ravager is put down, then it'll be really good. But if they don't do that, then the Ravager version is still gonna suck ass. I mean, hell, it could even just be for the duration of Ravager. It would make it so good. It would make it so good, having all that rage while you're pressing Whirlwind and Cleave. Oh, it would be so good. But whatever. Fury Warrior talents. Cadence of Vegeta's back. It's still the shit version. I'm going to assume that much like it does on live at the moment, it won't stack multiple times on a Whirlwind Bloodthirst. But not buffing on you and Shiny Thunderclap though? Oh god, yeah. That Thunderclap that we're definitely going to use as DPS. For sure. What was I saying? Yeah. I'm assuming this is not going to stack up on one Whirlwind Bloodthirst, which is a shame, because it used to do that. Cadence of Fujita used to be really good in M+, because it would stack up on one Whirlwind Bloodthirst, and it only stacked up to 4 times, so dropping it wasn't so bad. But, yeah, whatever. Now, I know a lot of you have been just spooging over this, but yeah, Cold Steel Hot Blood is back. Now, it kind of makes sense, because Seethe was an absolute fucking failure, and this is the only thing that would actually replace it and make it good. They've got to be really careful how they tune this, because if they tune it too aggressively, then suddenly Fury is actually unkillable again. Much like it was back in BFA. It was completely unkillable. So I'm a little bit scared, but whatever. Also, actually, we'll continue. I don't want to see Fury become a crit-based machine again, but maybe it will. Maybe it will. Hey, pressing Bloodthirst right now? Yeah, it sucks. We deserve to live forever? Not when this is involved. I swear to God, I wanted them to remove Siegebreaker, and this is obviously implying that Siegebreaker still exists. My assumption is that Siegebreaker is still going to be a Fury talent. I don't think it's going to be baseline, but admittedly, this will make Siegebreaker feel a little bit better, because the extra 3 seconds will at least... The extra 3 seconds will make it feel slightly less wasteful to press with it being on a global. And if it's increasing the damage of it as well, then maybe it doesn't hit for jack shit, and maybe it actually feels like it does something. But, nah, we'll see. Depths of Insanity is back. Longer Recklessness, yeah, fine. No problem with that. I love having this back. I absolutely adore having this back. Because, oh, people are going to hate me for saying it. People in Skyhold would hate me for saying it. But this now means there's actually some element, potentially. Is there? No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But I love having this back. There's now actually a bigger reward for being enraged for longer, which is so good. It's so good. It means that if you do get lucky and are just chaining Enrage and just never dropping it, or not dropping it for a hugely long amount of time, then it's fucking mad. It's so good. Say it, don't be a wuss. No, I'm not going to say it. It'll get me memed on so hard. It'll get me memed on so hard. What about Fresh Meat? It's literally the dungeon talent for Fury. I mean, there's a chance that it's still there. Because if these are the Fury Warrior talents, there's not a whole lot of them. There will still be stuff to come. So don't worry about it too much. Don't worry about it too much. But I do like having this back, honestly. Because auto attacks are such a big... can potentially be such a big part of Fury's damage. A fate worse than death, say it, Daniel. I'm not going to say it. There's some ads coming, so I'll pause here for a moment and wait for the ads to be over. I'm still not going to say it, though. I'm not going to say it. Radiant Rage is coming from otherwise besides RNG from BT. Yeah, I noticed that. The fact that Rampage is not giving him Rage baseline. But I feel like this is going to be early enough in the talent tree that it's kind of going to be unavoidable with taking anyway. I can't imagine a time where you would not take this. Especially if Fury as a spec is still going to revolve around Rampage like they seem to want it to. You know? So, I don't know. I'm not taking that shit and I'm not using Rampage either. I'm going to only press Raging Blow and Onslaught. And Bloodthirst. And Whirlwind. The Rampage and Rage on live is a leveling perk, so it makes sense to become a talent. Oh, that's a good point. Are leveling perks going? I guess they are, right? With a seeming focus on crits, could we actually be moving back to enrage on BT crits instead of a flat chance? I think they'll still keep it a flat chance, because having Bloodthirst only enraging on crit felt really shit in the early parts of expansions, when you had, like, no stats. We also have stat DR now. Exactly. Precisely. I need a drink. Everything he says is important. Check the tooltip of execute real quick. Still only a 20% refund. You bastards. Six-second CD. Baseline. It'll be the same as it is now, right? It'll be 6-second CD baseline reduced by haste, but it will still probably have the cooldown removed for Arms and Fury and... Sorry, Arms and Prot. And it'll remain a spender, but be a... Yeah. And it'll be a generator for Fury, surely. Unless... Unless that is just the tooltip straight up, and that's how it's going to be for all 3 specs. What would a reasonable amount be then? What, for the execute refund? Make it 30% again. It was a lot, but make it 30% again. Anything to make an execute phase actually feel worthwhile again. Because at the moment, execute just feels bad. Now, hopefully, Juggernaut will go part way to actually making Fury's execute feel good again. But if Fury's execute is still on a... I mean, it will be most likely, but if Fury's execute is still on a cooldown, then... it's still not going to feel amazing. There's no point having 99 potential stacks for Juggernaut and having a 6-second baseline cooldown on execute. There's no point. There is no point. You might as well make it uncapped on stacks. You're still never going to get high enough for it to actually do anything amazing. Especially when it's only a 3% damage increase. You know? It's not going to be Argus Execute. Exactly. And that's what people want out of Juggernaut. Which is why Fury's Execute should be exactly the same as Arms and Prots. And it should spend Rage and have no cooldown on it. Straight up. We want to bet one of the missing talents is Legion Massacre. I mean, we could hope so. We could hope so. It would almost not make sense now, though, because, like, if Rampage baseline is not causing Enrage, then what's the point in having a free Rampage? You know what I mean? Where Focus Rage? Oh, they'll still consider Overpower Focus Rage, for sure. 10 minutes of stacking to max it? More or less. There's honestly no point in having a cap on stacks if it's going to have a cooldown, at least for Fury. I'm assuming it's not going to have a cooldown for Arms or Prot, so then the stack cap kind of makes sense. But, we'll see. We'll see. Right, back to where we were. So we were here. Great. Bloodthirst damage increased, sure, whatever. Rage Burst 2 charges, and there's a... So Raging... Right. I mean, I'm assuming this is also going to be quite early in the tree, so it's going to be more or less unavoidable in terms of taking it. But this means that Raging Blow also only has 1 charge baseline. Okay. Sure. Fine. Whatever. Rampage causes you to become enraged and rampage damage increased by 20%. Fine. Enrage regen lasts 25% longer. I don't see a time where that's ever going to be all that useful. I really don't. There's both leveling perks for RB. I guess that makes sense as well then. Execute increases damage. Yeah, we know Juggernaut. Having Juggernaut back is quite good. This one I also found quite interesting. So, We all know that Onslaught is dog shit, and the main thing that makes Onslaught dog shit is that it's trying to jam another ability into a spec that already has massive amounts of button bloat. So it never worked, because it basically offered you nothing. It did relatively mediocre damage. It would almost definitely force you out of Enrage. You had to be enraged when using it. The amount of rage you generated was pretty piss. It basically did nothing. The fact that it's going to extend Enrage, not by 4,000 seconds, I wonder how much that would be in reality. 2 seconds, surely. Or it just extends it by 4,000 seconds, but it won't. Either way, likely just 4. If it is extending by 4 seconds, that's quite big. Which it's literally just giving another Enrage. Joe, when you see that big nose, remove all the zeros. So it would be 4 seconds. That's huge. That's honestly huge. And it would make Onslaught worth pressing. It would definitely make Onslaught worth pressing. Especially if it's going to generate a bit more rage as well. That would also be good. Raging Blow gains an additional charge, so it is going to have 3 charges. The thing is, without the tier set, assuming we don't get the tier set back in any form, the current tier set back in any form, do you really need that many Raging Blows? I don't think you do. I really don't think you do. And then we're getting Vicious Contempt back. Honestly, I think Vicious Contempt, at least at the moment, VC is quite underrated. Can anyone remember what the damage increase on a max rank Vicious Contempt is right now? Isn't it like 20+%? Or is it more than that? Like 50 or so? Yeah, so it's actually going to feel like piss. 48%. Okay, so that is actually going to feel like piss. Because at the moment, with Vicious Contempt, Bloodthirst does some major damage below 35% HP. This is actually going to feel horrific by comparison. But if it's a talent that's not easily avoided, there seems to be quite a big focus on Execute. Not even just for arms, but for Fury as well. Again, I swear to God, I am convinced I'm right about this. I am convinced I'm right about this. I'm convinced that this is for single-minded Fury. If there is that much emphasis on Execute, especially for single-minded Fury, honestly, this could be really good. This could be really good, especially if single-minded Fury ends up stacking a ton of crit. I'm really convinced about this. Frenzy Flurry is a proc 100%. I don't think it's a proc. You really think that's a proc? Maybe Titanium refreshes Bloodthirst instead? I still think it's more likely to be a hack and slash replacement. And it's just going to refresh Raging Blow. There's Bloodthirsty for 30% more damage? Yeah. So, well, okay, yeah. I guess... but doesn't Bloodthirst already have a modifier on it? From the leveling perks. It's either Single-Minded Fury or it's what Vaney says in the naming convention hints at Flurry, the old attack speed proc. Possibly. I still like the... because there is... unless they're planning on removing Single-Minded Fury entirely, which I guess they could, but I'm pretty sure there's a general talent for one-handed weapons, which I guess could just be for prot only, but honestly, Single-Minded Fury as well, I honestly think that for Single-Minded Fury just makes sense. And then it turns SMF into a crit-based build. rather than Titan's Grip, which is a more haste-based build. There we go. That's what I want. It says two-hander. It does say two-hander, but when you mouse over the tooltip itself, it says it requires one-handed melee weapons. Whereas Sharpened Blades doesn't confirm one-handed melee weapons, but says while using two-handed swords or axes. And I guarantee you that the fact that both of these... Where the fuck's it gone? The fact that they both start with while using two-handed swords or axes, they've just fucked it up. Honestly, I genuinely think that this is the single-minded Fury replacement, and it's going to be very crit and execute focused, whereas Titan's Grip will be damaged before that point and mostly haste. And it's based on nothing but the fact that I've seen requires one-handed melee weapons. It's based on literally nothing but that. But that must be there for a reason. Ignoring the fact that the tooltip says, you know, then Juggernaut could work. It still wouldn't work, because even a single-minded Fury, it's still going to have a cooldown on execute. But it would just mean that every execute you do use is going to be a lot more impactful, so the extra damage that it deals is going to be a little bit more... You're going to feel it a little bit more, you know? It's 100% a spender now? I really don't think so. I suppose it could be, because again, we were looking through the tooltip of execute earlier, and obviously at the moment we don't see. It would most likely be under a Fury passive anyway for execute, but until we see a Fury passive for execute, it could still be a spender. But if it is a spender, and if that is the actual tooltip for execute, it's going to have a 6-second cooldown for all 3 warrior specs. And that will feel even worse. That'll feel even worse. But whatever. Probably scale with haste like on live? Probably. But again, with single-minded Fury, are you going to... Would you be going into a crit haste build and then not have any mastery, or would you go into a crit mastery build and then not have any haste and the execute cooldown still be really long? Frothing Berserker change just screams... I can't remember where it was now. That was Frothing Berserker. Was it further down? Far down? Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. But I remember seeing that, and we will look over that in a moment as well. Anyway, yeah, we've gone through all that. Then there's the prot stuff. Do you care about the prot stuff? Does anyone actually care about the prot stuff? Not really, right? Like, it's prot. AoE shield wall. Yeah, it's just the legendary, right? Meh. Dead spec, exactly. Prot is the big thing. Prot's not the big thing. Right, sorry. You, as the arms aficionado, cannot say prot is the big thing. Stop it. Get out. Stop it right now. Imagine Onslaught being the worst pick ever and getting its cooldown nerfed. But the thing about that is that Onslaught now kind of makes sense, because the problem with Onslaught is that it would almost force you to drop Enrage. But now, it looks like it's just going to give you an extra Enrage if you use it while you're enraged. Now it's actually got a use. It actually has a use now, which would be so big. Alright, what we got? Cyber the Sword cooldown change from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. They've literally already done that in Shadowlands, but okay. Mortal Strike is getting a damage buff. Great. Quite a big damage buff as well, by the looks of it. Nice. We like that. Overpower, no damage buff by the looks of it. Overpower, stacking up to 2 times. Fine. Rank 1 is private single fight back in HFC. What do you mean? Stop it. Talents. Avatar gives 30 Avatar gives 30 rage. Alright, so Avatar is a talent for arms then. Fine. Deadly Calm had the maximum rage removed because that's now a talent on the warrior tree, which is also fine, but I can't imagine a time that you would ever pick Deadly Calm. I guess a lot of that is going to come down to where it is in the tree, but that's fine. Rend has had the crit damage removed. Alright, okay, right, fucking, right. Hear me out, chap, because a lot of you probably weren't here when I was doing this. I spent the entirety of Shadowlands Alpha and Beta sitting every Wednesday, every Thursday, farming my way up to the top of Icecrown Citadel and sitting there playing the in-game version of fucking Bejeweled, waiting for these patch notes to come out every single week. And every week, ARMS got no changes. The one main change that ARMS gets, and it's adding crit damage onto Rend, and the next expansion, they yeet it out the fucking window. Then what was the point? Then what was the fucking point all this time? It's another talent now. It doesn't matter. Let it have that as well. Because at the moment, because I'll be perfectly honest, Rend on its own, I don't think is strong enough to be worth taking. It's 30 rage. It's 30 rage with nothing else other than the damage that it deals. And even the damage that it deals is mediocre. The crit damage at least gave it something that was worthwhile using it for. Now, if they replace the crit damage with, let's say, 5 rage per tick, great. But on its own, I think that's absolutely dog shit. I really think it's dog. That's funny. That's really funny. Right, what have they done with Skull Splitter? They've made it do more damage, and they've increased the cooldown on it. Right. Why? Why have they increased the cooldown on Skull Splitter? On a spec that is starved of resources as it is. I get it does significantly more damage now. That's a big damage buff. That's 2 really big damage buffs. Fucking hell. I get that it does more damage, but I mean, I guess it's only 3 seconds. And I guess charge weaving is still... I guess charge weaving is still there. Nothing about that makes sense. Skull Splitter. The cooldown scales with haste, doesn't it, chap? It does, right? Maybe because of Tactician procs being higher? But it barely helps with rage. It just, like, very, very vaguely stems off rage starvation for 1 global longer. But yeah, maybe. What's happening to AM? Good point. Good point. We haven't seen AM. It might still be there. To be fair, this is almost definitely, like, not yet finished. So, yeah. Charge baseline gives 20 rage now as well, so that's something. But doesn't it already give 20 rage? You want to see Rend give some rage every tick? That would be cool. I think it would be good. Charge Rain 2 gives 20 rage. Okay. So, right, fair enough. Yeah. No, I would like, again, I've been saying this for a while, but either seeing Rend give, like, 5 rage per tick, or seeing every overpower use give 5 or 10 rage per use, I think it would really fucking help. It would really help. Whose idea was it to make Stormbolt do a tiny bit more damage, though? I mean, I say a tiny bit more damage. When you look at the increase from 16.38% to 28.5%, it's almost a... Is it almost? It's not that far off a 50% increase. In fact, it's more. Is it more? Yeah, it's more. But it's not going to make it be used as a damage ability, so why... Stormbolt has never been used for the damage, so why buff the damage of it? It's almost double. That's true, it is almost double. But why buff the damage of it? I don't understand. For all we know, they've buffed AA Rage by 5,000%, so hard to judge. True. And that would be in line with a lot of the tooltips that we've seen so far. Stormbolt is already used for damage on live, but isn't it only at range? Or is it just literally if you have it spec'd and have nothing else to use? And who the fuck specs it instead of double time these days? Free global, free damage. I'd kind of rather the double time. If you can't charge on CD, that's fair. That is fair. Alright, what else have we got? Fury. Oh, what have they done with Dragon Roar? Hold on. Hold on. What have they done? What have they done, lads? Raw explosively dealing 170% of attack power. That's exactly the same to enemies within 12 yards. Deals reduced damage to secondary targets. Stop it! Ah, Blizzard, stop it. Oh, they've made it generate 20 rage instead of 10. Ah, stop. Stop. Ah. Why soft cap the AoE? Sorry, you didn't reduce the challenge though? I know, but I still don't understand why. Again, that was another change that was made in beta, which just didn't make sense to me. And yes, obviously it's generating 20 rage instead of 10, but yeah, whatever. I still don't understand. Whatever. Look at the frothing change, though. Yes, yeah. That one is quite interesting, actually. Your ability is the cost rage of a 20% chance to immediately refund 20% of the rage spent. Which, you're exactly right. It would suggest that we're getting more spenders for Fury than just Rampage. If that means that we're getting Execute... I wonder... So does that mean that Execute just becomes the spender in Execute rather than Rampage? But then where does the Enrage come from? Unless we get Old Legion Massacre back. Fury Whirlwind cost rage? I doubt it. I highly doubt that. Can mean hamstring for all we know. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it would suggest that there's going to be something more meaningful. Old Mascar is highly likely. I kind of hope so. Dude, if we get that back, I'll actually be so happy. What's Onslaught doing now, then? Onslaught has also had a damage buff. That's quite nice. The damage was never really the problem with it. The damage was kind of okay. But we've already gone through why it might actually be good now. The fact that it's giving basically an entire new... What did Old Massacre do? So, Old Massacre would make... I think it was if your execute crit... Or just if you execute... It gave you 2 stacks of a buff that cut the cost of Rampage by 50%. So it was effectively free after 2 executes. You learned this week that Meat Cleaver works for hamstring to AoE slow? You didn't know it? You didn't know that before? I see why you play ARMS. Pretty sure a crit made it 100% no cost. Okay, yeah, that might have made more sense. I'm sure I remember it stacking up to 2 times. But I could be wrong. But again, it would suggest that maybe there's something more beneficial that is going to cost rage, which would only make sense with execute. Which again goes back to this execute tooltip that we were looking at before making sense and it not changing for any of the specs. But if that's true, that means that every single spec is going to have an execute on a 6-second cooldown, baseline. Lowered by haste, I'd assume. No one's gonna like that. So I hope there's something not quite right with that tooltip. But either way. Oh, and the cooldown's been changed from 12 to 18 seconds. Whatever. And then this fucking thing is back. Whoa. Gonna roll for our tier tokens with Evoker, Rogue, and Monk. That's fine. If it's right about SMF, you can always proc Rampage on SMF Execute. Yeah, but then that would also make sense if we're talking about Single-Minded Fury becoming an Execute and crit-based spec again. That would make sense. Also, if what we saw, if you were watching Towley's stream earlier and you saw his interview with Ian, if it's true that we're getting Master Looter back, honestly, I don't think you need to worry too much. I know I certainly don't need to worry, but you probably don't need to worry that much. Since you'll effectively be choosing who gets what. Rates. And it's certainly never going to be a healer. So with Fury and Arms got their own Colossus Smash. Effectively, they already had that. Because it's not like Siegebreaker is new. Siegebreaker is something that we have anyway. I just hope that... Where the fuck is it? I just hope that this is actually enough to make Siegebreaker feel worthwhile. Because it's still only 10 seconds baseline, and that feels awful. But... it's also getting a damage buff as well, I suppose. And that damage buff, again, is quite big. A lot of our abilities are getting some pretty big damage buffs. Interesting. Oh! Oh! Demo Shout got buffed. Right. Last stand baseline is 2 minutes, so it means it doesn't need bolster to be 2 minutes. But wasn't bolster changed? I know we said we didn't care about prot, but I want to double check this because I'm sure I remember seeing it before. Or is bolster not on here? Isn't bolster on here? Bolster CDR changed from 1 minute to 10 seconds. Right, okay. Sure. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. And fuck you bastards. I fucking knew it. Oh, you dickheads. This should not be here. This should be here. And so should this. And it should be a node. And it should be choose either Stormbolt or Shockwave. You know. That's really annoyed me. That's really annoyed me, that has. You assholes. Alright, whatever. And what else have we got? Bolster, we looked at that already. What's the duration on Last Stand? 15 seconds. So it's going to be 1 minute and 50, 15 seconds. Yeah, okay, 1 minute 35 cooldown. That's quite short, actually. That's pretty good. Unstoppable Force. Oh, Unstoppable Force has been buffed as well. Still not enough. Still not enough. But whatever. Sure. Charge has also had its damage buffed. Let's go. Let's go. Challenging Shout on a 2-minute cooldown. Great. Even more chances to miss-hit that. Heroic Leaf got a damage buff! Oh boy, I can't wait to use that in Colossus Smash Windows again. Smile. What else have we got? Ignore pain, cooldown change from 12 seconds to 1 second. That's gonna make PvPers go fucking mental, by the way. That plus Brutal Vitality is going to make PvPers go fucking ballistic. Okay. Sure. And Heroic Throw got a buff. And Shield Slam now generates Rage Baseline. Okay, fair enough. Right. Well, what doesn't make PvP mains mold? That's true. That's very true. Right, well, okay. What do we find the most interesting here? Has anything else been added while we've been talking? Probably not, right? Does anyone know if anything else has been added while we've been talking? Did Charge get an AoE stun? No, of course not. It's still just a root. Am I going to upload this on YouTube? Yeah, maybe. Warriors share tokens with evokers? It's fine. It's going to be Master Looter anyway. Just make sure that you loot the very first token, and then surely there's no way that they don't give the entire set to you. Imagine if they gave Unstoppable Force baseline so you can Thunderclap. Yeah, true. Pain and Gain. That's just the, that's that conduit, which I can never remember the name of. Condensed Animosphere. Literally the exact same thing. As for why we get that, I don't know. It honestly feels like they just didn't have many ideas for the flat warrior tree, because there's so many stat increases and a couple of things like this, just general soulbind talents that we've been given. Where's Bloodbath? Yeah. There's almost nothing on here that I wanted us to get. There's actually almost nothing. In fact, is there anything on here that I wanted us to get? I didn't think we would ever get Cold Steel Hot Blood back. Actually, I didn't want that back. I wanted the defensive aspect, but I didn't want the offensive aspect. I just wanted it to heal. But part of me thinks that the dot on this is not going to be all that powerful. But we'll see. Will it be even good without the triple stacking part? It depends on how it's tuned. It depends entirely on how it's tuned. There's actually nothing on here that I wanted us to get that we have got. I still think the arms talents look more interesting than either of the other two. Like, the most interesting thing about the arms talents is, for me, is Fatality. Like, that's going to lead to some ridiculous executes. Oh my god, if that execute gets parried, I'm actually going to throw my PC out the window. How could you not want Juggernaut? It wasn't one of those things at the top of my list. My biggest concern coming forward was about the state of all three specs, well, of Arms and Fury's cooldowns. And seeing nothing about it makes me think that almost nothing is changing in that regard. Clearly, Fury is keeping Recklessness, because that's still there. That annoys me in itself. Unless Rec is going to get slightly reworked, I don't like Recklessness as it is right now. I really don't. I do really like this, though. I do really like this. Bone Grinder. The fact that we get Cleave on Bone Grinder as well as Whirlwind is quite nice. I was hoping they would increase... I thought we might get some... Oh. Oh! That's a good point. Bone Grinder is arms specific. Potentially. So... What? Fury's just fucked on AoE? Huh. Bone Grinder was meant to be an arms thing to begin with. I did suspect that arms might be the only one that got Bone Grinder back, but I actually didn't think they would do it. Ooh. And with no kind of replacement for Fury at all. Oh boy. Bone Grinder won't be as strong without Signet anyways. But they have Signet. Like, Signet's literally right there. I guess arms actually... Well, this also suggests that we're getting Cleave baseline. Oh, actually... You know what? Arms could actually end up being the M plus spec now that I look at it. Were there buffs to Whirlwind? Other than Bone Grinder, were there flat damage buffs to Whirlwind? Barbaric Training had a Whirlwind damage increase. We have Seismic Reverb as a talent, which will be probably fairly easy to take. Even though this still sucks. Hitting one additional time is not enough. Like, it should be an extra Whirlwind, but maybe that's just taking the piss. Especially with Bone Grinder, but we'll see. Maybe with the extra damage it might not be so bad. There's no sight of Dreadnought yet. Which would also be kind of sad. Furious Blows plus 10%. Oh yeah, there it is. Alright, so there are a couple of Whirlwind, but you know what? Interesting. That extra hit may generate rage and extra time to speed Fury up. In AoE specifically, but then they have no burst. Unless all three specs are getting access to Bladestorm, which again, not seeing it as a talent and seeing Signet in here potentially even this doesn't suggest that we're getting Bladestorm baseline. Because that could literally just be in the arm side of the warrior tree. Signet with no AM. I still think there's a chance we get AM. I do still think there's a chance we get AM. Obviously, again, like I said at the very top of the stream, this is obviously not finished. Because a lot of these trees and a lot of these talent sections in particular look very barren, to say the least. You've got what? 3, 6, 9, 10 talents here for arms. 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 for Fury, which is almost there. You've got fucking 7 for Prot. So they're clearly not finished yet. There'll be some things that are missing. So seeing anger management for Fury, for example, could still be there. Seeing Dreadnought for arms could still be there. There's my arm spec overhaul. I don't want to say it, but honestly, from what I'm seeing, it may not even need it. The talents might be enough. They mentioned Bladestorm, but where is it? Yeah, exactly. You're scared they don't have much time? Don't hold them to that, for all we know, it may be in the general tree. True. For all we know, yeah, don't hold them to the whole release in 2022 thing. There's no reason why they can't, delay that. There's literally no reason why they can't delay it, because the way I see it, it's one of two. It can go one of two ways. So, where are we today? July 14th. I'm assuming they don't want to do a whole Christmas race to World First again. Meaning that if they wanted to avoid that, expansion would have to release in November. And it would have to be early or mid-November in order to avoid it. If they didn't want to do that again. Big if. I mean, they've shown they don't care in the past, so why would they now? But, big if. Then you'd have Race to World First out of the way, easily by, beginning of December, and then a lot of other guilds can get their stuff done within the next couple of weeks, break over the holidays, and then go on. Or they release the expansion, if they want a 2022 release, they literally release the expansion on the 27th, 28th, the weekend, or the reset after Christmas, immediately after Christmas, and then have the first tier in January. There's no reason why they couldn't release it here or yet. There's genuinely no reason why they couldn't do that. Then technically they've stuck to their they've stuck to what they've said about releasing it this year. You're right in that they still don't have a whole lot of time, but yeah. Just release the raid on the 20th December and just make it EN 2.0. Well, to be fair, you say that. It is only going to be an 8-boss raid. It is literally just gonna. It's an 8-boss raid. So if they get the tuning wrong, then yeah, unlucky. So what is Fury AoE right now without Bone Grinder as a Fury talent? Just play summon to 5-target cleave again. Basically, yeah, it would be. It would be. Yeah. Assuming that you also have access to Bladestorm, then yeah. Did you notice the Warbringer effect for charge? I didn't. Was it down here? Oh, Warbringer. Isn't that just a PvP talent, though? Uldia wasn't massively hard. Castle Nathria was just a buggy mess towards the end. Did they change Cold Steel Hotblood Azurite power? I remember it was a bleed, now it says it leeches HP. It's effectively the same thing, though, no? Because you were healed for an amount of the damage that it did previously, whereas now it just leeches it. That's the Warbringer tooltip for it? Yeah, but Warbringer is just a PvP talent, right? So it's literally just the tooltip for Warbringer, the PvP talent. I'm sure. Yeah. Makes sense. Does that mean charge plus additional talent will be an AoE stun? It won't be a stun. I mean, it could be, to be fair, it could be a stun, or it's just a stun on the target. But yeah, having a having a stun in charge is pretty bad if it adds to stun DR, which, if I remember rightly, last time it did. maybe we get Odin's Fury like Outlaw getting Dreadblades, it's kind of an AoE burst. That's possible. Again, like, the trees are, or the talents are clearly completely unfinished, so there is room in here to add more stuff for AoE, but at the moment, Fury's AoE is certainly looking a lot less interesting than Arms is. Especially with the odd little damage increases to Whirlwind. And this suggesting that they get Cleave baseline. And if the Deep Wounds application from Cleave remains the same as well, then yeah. No, it could be really good. And assuming that Arm still gets Warbreaker. Looks like we'll have Spear, so that may be the AoE for Fury. That plus the guaranteed baseline Bladestorm that we're getting. Although, to be fair, if Cold Steel Hot Blood does good damage and still can still apply on AoE like it used to be fair, that also did really good damage on AoE. But that was because Cold Steel itself was like kind of busted. It's just having no burst, well, or having very little burst would feel really weird. Will we have enough GCD even if we want to get Onslaught? I mean, 3 Rage and Blow charges. Yeah, it'll be fine. Because it's a lot easier to force Onslaught into the rotation now. Because of the fact that it extends, or will extend, the duration of Enrage. Assume that that's 4 seconds, because that's most likely what it will actually be. But if it extends Enrage by 4 seconds, it's effectively another Enrage, which means that it's a lot easier to fit that in and still be able to pull off a full rotation. Honestly, really good. Really good. Cold Steel was shit at low gear though, so there's always that part. True. True. But again, if again, like, honestly, my entire brain at the moment is stuck on this. And the fact that I genuinely think this is single-minded Fury replacement and it has a potential to be really fucking good. I cannot get past that thought. Because that's potentially huge. The downside of it is that if it is a single-minded Fury replacement, then it's only going to be good with swords and axes. Meaning that you would have to pray that there are one-handed swords and axes at the highest item level from raids. It's the sharpened blades below. But there's a difference between the two. I was saying this earlier. So sharpened blades on the tooltip only specifies two-handed swords or axes, and obviously the values are different. Frenzied Flurry is clearly supposed to be different because it also specifies requiring one-handed melee weapons. So ignoring this part, because this part is clearly just... I'm convinced that this part here is just a copied tooltip, whereas that, being different, makes me think that that's for single-minded Fury. And, on the general warrior talents, this seems pretty fleshed out, and there is no single-minded Fury replacement here. Or it's for the hybrid build for one one-hander, one two-hander. Ooh, don't make me think that that could actually be a thing. Nah, surely not. The tooltips are too similar for that to be a thing. I don't want to believe it. You're making me actually think about it, but no, no shot. Was the Cold Steel Hot Blood only decent with a ton of crit and corruption? It wasn't only decent with that. We had Cold Steel Hot Blood even before that point, and it was still mostly what carried Fury. So I think Warrior's going to be good on Mediocre. Far too early to tell. They're not even open on Alpha yet. Far too early to tell. But trust me, when they get opened on Alpha, provided I have it at the time, I'm going to check if I have it now. I'm not counting on having it, but I will check. But provided I have Alpha when Warrior goes live for it, I 100% will be playing it. Yeah, I don't have it. Rampage still in the game, so it's still ass. But there's the possibility of Execute being a spender. I can't. if that Frenzied Flurry thing is a single-minded Fury replacement, it's going to destroy Execute. Like, I can't help but feel that way. Stacking crit, having the extra crit damage, having Juggernaut, Execute guaranteed critting with one-handers. Yeah, I don't know, man. Fury's Execute hits like a joke? No, it doesn't. Fury's Execute at the moment is a lot better than people give it credit for. It's just that it doesn't look like it does much comparatively to, say, Rampage, because you're not using it for the entire fight. You know what I mean? Weapon swap for Fury? Yeah, maybe. I have a feeling, though, you know how, so for Frost DK, they mitigated weapon swapping by putting in that staggered passive, where if you swapped from, say, dual wielding to a two-hander, the benefit of the two-handed weapon from their passive wouldn't kick in for 30 seconds, and the same the other way around. It would be exactly the same for Fury as well, I would assume. Execute literally provides no more wasted GCDs for Whirlwind. How? Because at the moment, everything suggests there's a lot in here that would suggest that Execute is becoming a spender for Fury again as well. Unless, of course, there's a Fury passive that takes away the rage cost and makes it a generator again. But even that doesn't make sense with that. This is also incredibly interesting. Like, I don't know, man. Honestly, it might, like, I can't help it anymore. I now honestly think that there's a potential single-minded Fury build that might actually work if I'm right about this. It's a big if, but honestly, the fact that the tooltip is specifying one-handed weapons just makes me think. It does mean that potentially damage outside of Execute would be quite bad, though. Although if Execute now has a topside Execute as well, that's still 40% of a fight. Juggernaut just doesn't fit with Execute having a CD as well. The fact that it's got stacks doesn't make sense in the slightest. If it is going to have that, if it is going to have the cooldown on it, then having max stacks doesn't make sense. You might as well increase the amount of damage that it's going to deal per stack and just uncap it. I don't know. So it just gives me more things I question than answers. I mean, that's part of the problem with the data mined list of talents rather than an actual tree, right? Because I'm sure a few of the questions could actually be answered if we had a proper tree laid out so we could see what abilities were going where, and if we had the full tree rather than clearly the partial trees that we have so far and not knowing where everything's going to go. Any good changes on arms? There's one thing that really stands out, which is that fatality. Outside of that, not a whole lot actually stands out. Onslaught actually becoming a button you want to press is interesting too. I do like that change to Onslaught. It has effectively made it a worthwhile button, which is what Onslaught needed anyway. Is Onslaught becoming baseline? It's not, right? Because it was in the talents. So Onslaught's going to be a talent. By the looks of it from this. I wish this would just go away. This needs to fuck off. does fatality get consumed by one execute or does it stay on the target? It would suggest it gets consumed by one execute. It effectively acts the same as as Inkpod. It's just more controllable. Why do I dislike Siegebreaker? I dislike baseline Siegebreaker because I don't think it lasts long enough. It doesn't generate enough rage. It's a global that I don't want to use because it effectively forces me out of Enrage, and it doesn't do enough damage. But but with Deafening Crash coming in, and the fact that it's increasing Siegebreaker's damage as well as Siegebreaker getting a damage increase on its own, it might hit hard enough to feel like it's worth it. And the duration being increased is also quite good, because it'll feel a little bit less wasteful, considering the global that you have to use to actually press the ability in the first place. Now, if it was off global, it would feel much better, but there's no way it was ever going to be off global. But I mind it a bit less with the extra duration. It'll still feel wasteful, but at least I might get a full 10 seconds out of it now. Can't wait for my Omega Execute getting parried. Yeah, for sure. Really like the Siegebreaker, but Deafening Crush makes a bigger damage buff than CS. That's assuming... Isn't that assuming that that means the actual damage buff is being increased and not just the damage of the ability? Because I read that as the damage of the ability being increased, rather than the damage amp. Mrs. Bone Grinder on Cleave sounds good. I would like to see a buff to Cleave still. We'll assume that Cleave is still benefiting from overpower stacks. But yeah. I also kind of like it. I still think that the duration of Bone Grinder is too short, though. For ARMS specifically, if it is going to be ARMS specific, I'd like to see it be closer to 15 seconds rather than just 9. Especially with the cooldown of Bladestorm, assuming that it remains a minute and a half rather than a minute. I don't want answers, I want to have things to moan about, sorry. I won't ruin that for you. I think good mastery for ARMS would be that mastery just increases CS damage plus amp and Mortal Strike damage. Isn't that just... Is that just Legion mastery? How much damage does Bone Grinder increase? Good point. We don't know yet. Because it doesn't actually have a value. And it is 200% at the moment with a empowered conduit. Ooh, if it's less than that, then it really needs a duration increase. Something I've just realized, I've got a lot of questions about Execute now, because Sinful Surge clearly wouldn't make sense if Execute is still going to have a cooldown for ARMS. So clearly ARMS must have a passive that's going to remove the cooldown of Execute. Or the entire tooltip of Execute is going to get changed, it's going to have its cooldown removed for all specs. Or it's still going to have a cooldown for Fury, but it's going to spend Rage. Because of the way that Frothing Berserker got changed. Oh, there's too many questions. There's too many questions, dude. I don't know, man. There's quite a lot of stuff in here that's... Well, I say quite a lot. There's some stuff in here that's fairly interesting. The stuff that really stands out is that so many abilities are getting a damage increase already. I love how... I love how both Fury and ARMS have had multiple aura buffs over the course of Shadowlands, and now they're just having flat damage buffs to individual abilities. And quite a few of them as well. Siegebreaker buffed, Onslaught buffed, Stormbolt buffed, Skullsplitter buffed. is... Wait a minute. Does this mean what I think it means? Surely not, right? Like, surely not. Is Stormbolt actually going to be arms only? Assuming Stormbolt's in the general tree, I'd hope so, but at the moment it's under the arms section, and I don't know why it would be. Let me see this. Stormbolt 10.0. Arms Fury Protection. Okay, it is currently listed for all 3 specs. That's fine. Is it with the updated AP modifier as well? It is, right? Yeah. Yeah, 0285. Okay. Okay. Good. God bless you, Sari. I swear to God. I was about to lose my mind. See any sign of double time? No sign of it in what's listed here, but it would make sense if it still exists. For arms. For arms specifically, it would make a lot of sense. Fury doesn't really make much use of it. Proc kinda wants it, especially if it's going to share a cooldown with share a cooldown with Intervene. If it did, I don't know. They also made it so it's not parryable. Stormbolt, nice. Do you reckon there's still hope for a talent that increases the damage of Stormbolt? And this time they just give it to Arms, since Arms has Colossus Smash instead. That would be sick. That would be so sick. I still miss that. I wanted that back quite a lot. Need to be in the road group for the CDR. Yeah. I don't know. Like I say, there's a few interesting things here. There's nothing that... There are a few surprising things. I didn't think that we would get either of these back, and I thought they would try and give us some weird version of Conqueror's Banner. Kinda happy that they didn't give us Banner. I'm fine with a topside execute, sure. I'm fine with Spear of Bastion, especially for, like, you know, especially for Raid. Not for Raid, for M+. That's really good. That it won't have the extra crit damage while standing in the spear, I guess is okay, because then you're not restricted to being inside it, but it means you're kind of just relying on just the damage from it, which is okay, I guess. Anything here that stood out? A few bonuses for Pummel, which is quite nice. Dauntless Duelist is actually really good, if we are getting that. Lots of questions about Execute. Still searching for Heroic Strike? No shot. This suggesting that Tactician is potentially going to be available to all 3 specs. It might still not be. It could be on the very right-hand side, on whatever side the Arms talents will be on in the warrior tree. It could always be on that side, but it would suggest that, honestly, it would suggest the Tactician is going to it would suggest that Tactician's gonna be available to all 3 spec. It actually is on there. Interesting. I honestly think they're going to make that a prot thing. Because Maul, I know Sloot was talking earlier about Maul, which still exists. I can honestly see them making it a prot thing rather than anything else. Unless... Could they make that for Fury? No, surely not. Unless they completely rework how Rampage works. At the moment, I'm basically looking for any way that makes this Frothing Berserker change make sense. And the two things that come to mind about that are Execute being a spender again, and now possibly Heroic Strike. Interesting that it doesn't have a cost on there, though. Anyway, back to where I was. Yeah, lots of questions about Execute. Tactician being available for all three specs kind of makes sense. There are things that all three specs want reset. Overpower for arms, Raging Blow for Fury, literally a hack and slash replacement, and it does say requires warrior arms. So then that would be moved to the arms tree. So fuck that. In which case, Fury doesn't get a hack and slash replacement, and it'll feel worse. Great. Frenzied Flurry. I still think this is going to be a single-minded Fury replacement. I swear, if I'm right about this, I might actually play single-minded Fury the entire expansion. Because everything about this actually seems good. Crash, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you for giving Sari the D. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, thank you. There's a few whirlwind increases, which is quite nice. Some ace arms. Yeah, I mean, Sharpened Blade still exists in the general warrior talent tree, so it's not like arms couldn't use swords or axes. It just looks like Fury is going to be very locked to swords and axes in order for it to be really good. It honestly doesn't seem good in the slightest. Yeah, Sari was saying that just before about the... wherever it was. Exploit the weakness. Yeah. Notice that. It's a shame, because it does mean that Fury won't have a hack and slash replacement, which is... it kinda sucks. But at the same time, I guess it's just a more aggressive tactician for arms. Which is also nice, because it means that it'll rage starve a little bit slower. Do we get back Thunderclap? It looks like everyone can take it, yeah. Yeah, it's part of the general talent tree anyway. So, yeah, maybe. Maybe. What else is interesting here? Oh yeah, Inspiring Presence. I love the fact that we're keeping improved rally. Also just have hack and slash baseline now? Possibly. Possibly. Did I play Kata? I did, but I played DK mostly in Kata. I started as a prot warrior, then I went Blood DK, then I went Unholy DK, and then... yeah, I literally played DK for the rest of the expansion. Then I went back to warrior in... then I went back to warrior in Mists. But that's just the... that's not even hack and slash, that's just the cruelty talent. The current cruelty talent, right? In fact, no, that's already baseline on Raging Blow anyway, no? It's 20% baseline, 30% with cruelty. And then it has hack and slash on top of that. Cruelty within rage, that's the one. Oh yeah, you're right. Wow, that's a weird-ass looking tooltip. If that is instant on a 45-second cooldown, holy fucking Jesus. It also... at least by tooltip, it also doesn't remove immunities anymore. Meaning it's literally just used for absorbs. Ugh. Good news, check Warlock's talent data mined. You'll understand the good news. Let me have a look. Paladin, monk speculation, who cares? Demon Hunter and Warlock. Is this all? No, that can't be it. Where is it? Give me a link. Is that it? Demon Hunters are getting the hunt back, though, so that's kind of cool for them. Cast time on Shattering Throw at the moment sucks. It really sucks for Fury, because it forces you to drop in rage. I do wonder if, because the cast time, if the cast time actually is getting removed, I wonder if that means that it won't reset the swing timer for arms. If it doesn't, then... If it doesn't reset the swing timer anymore, then that's fucking great. What's Thunderous Roar's bleed? No one knows. There's no proper tooltip for Thunderous Roar yet, but it is sounding like a new arms talent. And if it is, they're really looking at pushing arms into being a dot-based build again, or a dot-based class. Because you'll have Deep Wounds, which I'm assuming is still going to be the mastery, Rend, and Thunderous Roar. Whether Thunderous Roar does any initial damage as well, we'll see. Is Shattering buff by Enrage? It is, yeah. Sorry, Jamie, I was trying to make a joke. But instrument sounds so broken. Does it, though? It's only 30-second increase. It only makes it 13 seconds. It's basically just taking the two-set that we have right now. I am right, aren't I? 10 seconds base. 13 with that talent. It's literally just the two-set. Not even that broken. Now, assuming Arms keeps Warbreaker, and if Arms has a little bit better AoE, then it could be pretty broken, but, you know. Arms kind of a bleed spec with Trauma in Legion, and it was really a bleed spec in BFA with very powerful Deep Wounds. Yeah, I don't know, man. Some interesting stuff, some not. I want to know whether Ravager might be open to not Arms Warriors as well. Well, whether it'll be open to all three specs. Is there any shot that they make Ravager prot only? I reckon that's a thing that they actually might do. And then you're literally just forcing Bladestorm for Arms, and then, what, maybe Bladestorm for Fury? Or Fury's only big AoE spell is then Dragon Roar, which is capped on AoE. Like everything else about the spec. Oh yeah, if I'm right, oh my god. If single-minded fury is a thing, I'm sorry I keep going through this, but I can't get past it. I swear, if that is the new single-minded fury thing, it could make Dragonroar hit so hard, dude. I swear to God. Oh, I don't know why I can't move past this. I've just got such a strong feeling about it. Can't even call Dragonroar AoE anymore. Oh, I don't even try and pretend that it's AoE at the moment. Ravager was playing TOS. Yeah, it was the play in Nathria as well for arms, but I can kind of see them making Ravager only available to Prot, Bladestorm only available to arms, and then Fury not really having an AoE equivalent other than Dragonroar. Would that make sense, though? Because you're effectively then pigeonholing Fury into only cleave. So I think Warrior will be strong in the next content. It's far too early to tell. There are a few things that look really interesting, but not enough to be able to say whether I think Warrior is going to be particularly strong or not. Let's put it. let me put it this way. While Inspiring Presence still exists, I guarantee you're going to have at least one warrior in your raid. Whether it's a DPS warrior or not is a different matter, but you're going to have at least one warrior in the raid. And Battle Shout will still exist as well, so, you know. Revenue itself can be really good for us, just needs to be done right. For that, it actually has to do damage. If only it worked better with Merciless Bone Grinder. But, never mind. Fatality is interesting. Fatality looks sick. Like, the potential of Fatality is quite massive. I'm excited by that. So I like the idea of Ravager for Fury. Both cleaving and Ravager dealing damage on its own. Not really, because okay, no, it would be fine for Fury. I just think it would be better for arms. Because I think one of the big attractive things of Ravager is the fact that it's giving you rage over time, where Fury doesn't really need it. I guess unless Execute is actually going to be a spender now, which is possible. But arms could do with that rage all the time. I'm just hoping that Fury has some kind of... The more I look at it, the more worried I get that Fury's not going to have that much that's going to be great for AoE. And you'll literally be locked into cleaving, potentially with Cold Steel, Hot Blood, if it does good enough damage. We ignore that number because it's literally just a tooltip number, so that won't be accurate. Because 100% it'll scale with attack power, and it'll probably have a chance to crit, and all sorts. Oh yeah, this is also really interesting. I think a lot of people will quite easily overlook this, apart from those people that played with that back in Legion. Like, you have to remember how strong it was to know how strong it was, and how strong it could be. Like, yeah. There is so much extra damage to be gained from guaranteeing your auto attacks to be hitting. Still not going to say what I, what I was saying, what I was going to say before. It is so good. Just look at Halondrus. Look at Halondrus. That's true, yeah, because Halondrus couldn't parry and you couldn't miss, right? N'Zoth was another one. Atrocity playing Fury on N'Zoth was by design because you could not miss with your auto attacks. Honestly, it's so good. I'm also wondering if they're going to make any adjustments to Enrage. Kinda hope they do. Do you generate rage when your autos miss or get parried? No. Do you want to know what I was actually going to say? Can we copy and Tom back still? I think there's definitely a place to get Tom back in. I think the talents we've seen so far make it unlikely, but in the data-mined mage talents, they were getting Blaster Master back, which was a previous Azerite trait. So there's a possibility that Test of Might comes back in. I just think it's unlikely looking at what we have here. There's far too many other damage increases, I think, for Test of Might to really make it back in. What's looking the best of those two so far? Difficult to know what's looking the best. I feel like Arms looks more interesting, but I don't know which one's looking best. I'd have to actually see how things are tuned at the moment. Tom is hard to make work without the thing that made spells free. Yeah. Did it make spells free? It didn't make spells free, right? It just made you generate more rage. Right? Because if it made spells free, like, Deadly Calm works against Lucid because you don't spend rage. Sorry, Deadly Calm works against Test of Might because you don't spend rage in that time. Now, if they change Deadly Calm to generate more rage over a period of time, rather than just making spells free, then yeah, Test of Might would work, but yeah, it'll be a bit awkward to... It's not that it wouldn't work, it would work, it would just be nowhere near as strong as people remember, by any means. You can only spell more towards one spec? Yeah, but that's only in terms of what I think looks more interesting right now, rather than what I think will do more damage. And at the moment, I think Arms looks more interesting, for sure. Wowhead post about the first raid. Yeah, I heard Towley talking about it earlier. I think he said it was going to be an 8-boss raid, which is going to be quite interesting. Lucid Dreams. Doesn't it have a chance to refund... Oh, that was just the passive, though. And then there was the on-use as well? Yeah. And the major essence was increasing rage generation. Warrior Giga'd execute damage Inc. Potentially as Fury. I'm not sure about Arms. It feels like Fury possibly has more to it. There's one thing that I've been going over again and again, and I'll spare you doing it again, but getting Juggernaut back alone suggests that Fury's going to have a pretty good execute phase again. But the problem again is that if Fury continues to have a cooldown on execute, then Juggernaut's never going to stack to anything even remotely impressive. And that's a bit of an issue. Execute refunded X amount of rage back if the target didn't die. I don't remember if it was still 30% in BFA or not. I know it's 20% now. It was 30% in BFA, wasn't it? Or did that get nerfed? It was 30% in BFA. I remember that after Uldir, they took away the refund from sweeping strikes executes because, yeah, Arms and Uldir was literally sweeping executes and getting all their rage back. That was funny. Execute on Spender again? I'm hoping so for Fury, at least. There are some things that make us think that it could be a thing. Like Frothing Berserker existing in this new state. The fact that it's stopped specifying Rampage and has begun specifying abilities that cost rage is it's indicative that something is changing. That execute thing could just be a wonky tooltip, as it's the rank 1 of current execute with the CD being removed by rank 2. Ah, okay. So in that case, there's still a possibility that the CD just gets removed for all 3 specs. And it does become a spender for Fury again. And Fury gets old Massacre back. Oh, I hope so. I really hope so. It's just for Fury Slam, though? Oh, God, no. God, no. Now, again, obviously, there's more that could still be added, I know, because, like, none of this looks even remotely complete. There's too few. But I'd like to see Wrecking Ball still. Like, Blizzard, if you're looking for ideas, Wrecking Ball for Fury would make sense, especially if you're not going to give them much else that's actually going to do good AoE damage. If we assume that Ravager's only going to be for Prot and Bladestorm's only going to be for arms, then Fury needs something. Could also simply be a tooltip simplifier and make Hamstring feel less bad. But the thing is, okay, it's clearly an intended change with some kind of greater goal in mind. It must be, because they can't have thought, oh yeah, they're really going to want that 20% chance to refund 2 rage on that hamstring that they're going to spend. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense. You know? It's not that it's even simplifying the tooltip. It's actually taking away the only thing that it affected in Rampage and is opening it up to more possibilities. And I swear to God, if that is just Slam and Hamstring because they think people still use those abilities, then could be future-proofing or something. I still think that the bigger likelihood is that, I mean, it is kind of copium, but I honestly think that the bigger likelihood is that it's also absorb. Oh, ignore pain, you're right. No, I still think I still think that it's going to be for something more meaningful. Whether it's getting Heroic Strike back, because there was that tooltip that you linked that Heroic Strike does exist in some form, or if it's for having Execute as a spender, which does honestly make sense. Especially with the amount of focus that's going into... Surely Blizzard can't be... copium, but surely Blizzard can't be that stupid to bring back Juggernaut on an 8-second duration and have a 6-second baseline cooldown on Execute for Fury. Surely not. Right? Like, no way. No way. Surely not. Right, you want me to have a look at the raid stuff? I just want to see if there's anything else that I've missed. Really interesting that Rampage isn't guaranteeing Enrage baseline. Whatever. What's that pulverized stuff? It's linked to Onslaught. So Onslaught's still going to exist. It's that ability that no one ever takes and hasn't taken across the entirety of Shadowlands, but they're making some changes to it. It's going to do more damage, it's going to generate more rage, it's getting an increased cooldown, but it's going to be a less useless button to press because it's effectively going to give you an entire enrage on top of your enrage, which is pretty good. If anything, making Execute generate rage was just speeding the rotation during Execute by an unnoticeable rate. Yeah, you're right. That's why it was never a good idea. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. I never agree with that change to begin with. But, yeah. Seems good even if it would get a 20% nerf. True. The likelihood is it's going to be 4 seconds. I still think even 4 seconds is too long. You only... To make Onslaught worth pressing, it only needs to cover roughly the length of time of a global, and that's around 1 second. It could literally extend to Enrage by 1 second, and it would still be worth it, because you wouldn't lose any Enrage uptime because of it. Now it's just hoping that Onslaught itself actually deals good damage. It is having its damage buffed, though, so that's quite big. I couldn't remember if it hit with main hand and offhand or not, but it doesn't. It only hits with one weapon. Whatever. Wants to be execute monsters again? Haha. Alright, I'll say it one more time just while the ads are going on. But, right, hear me out. I honestly think there is going to be a version of Single-Minded Fury. I swear, you're going to get sick of me saying this. I honestly think there's going to be a version of Single-Minded Fury that will crush Execute, potentially. Because, right, you'll have seen this, and you'll have seen that it's two-handed swords and axes and blah blah blah, and it's increasing crit damage by 100% and execute by 100% crit chance, and it's almost exactly the same tooltip as this. But Frenzied Flurry on the tooltip specifies one-handed melee weapons. Ignoring this, because that's clearly just a copy and pasted tooltip from one way or the other, it's specifying one-handed weapons, whereas Sharpened Blades does not. So my assumption, because we don't see Single-Minded Fury as an actual named talent, is that this will be Single-Minded Fury. It will only happen when you have two one-handed weapons equipped. You've got a bunch of execute. You've got a bunch of execute modifiers. One-handed Fury would then stack crit. You would get much more benefit from Cold Steel Hot Blood for damage outside of execute. You would actually get some decent benefit from Juggernaut, because even if it is only 3% damage, you're critting 100% of the time with double the crit damage as well. Like, yeah. I'm convinced. Oh yeah, also Dragon Roar would potentially do a shit ton of damage because you're going to be stacking crit. Honestly, like, I honestly think that's the way they're going to try and make Single-Minded Fury be good. I've said it so many times, but I am absolutely convinced that this is going to be something that they aim for. Honestly. Single-Minded Fury being good is not that weird. Fury was a thing before. In Wrath of the Lich King, they had a Titanic Might to allow Fury to use. Oh yeah, it's not that single-minded. It's not that having two one-handed weapons would be weird. It's just that them adding it back in the way that they did was incredibly underwhelming to begin with. But a talent like that, but a talent like Frenzied Flurry basically gives single-minded Fury or one-handed Fury an identity which is different from Titan's Grip. Because Titan's Grip would be mostly to do with damage outside of Execute, because it's just going to hit harder anyway because of having more strength, more weapon damage, and slightly more stats, assuming that you have weapons with stats. And Single-Minded Fury would then have the identity of being more Execute focused. So it will do less damage outside of Execute. It'll mostly stay relevant by just hoping that it crits, and trying to keep up Cold Steel Hot Blood for as long as possible. And then getting into Execute, it just starts going crazy because it's critting with Execute all the time and stacking up Juggernaut. Like, what it's needed from the very beginning is something that meaningfully changes why you would play that spec to begin with. 100% increased crit damage is pretty good. It's even better when you consider you'll be critting with Execute all the time. You know? But that's the whole point. It needed something to change its identity to make it different from Titan's Grip. The other problem that we've had is that in 2 out of the 3 raids that we've had so far, we've had two-handed weapons with special effects on them, meaning that even if Single-Minded Fury had some kind of game-changing way that it was played, it still wouldn't be played because you couldn't use the best weapons for the spec. Now, assuming that they either make one-handed equivalents of a two-handed weapon with a special effect, or just don't add special effects at all, maybe this could be good. Open it to 80% with that SMF and execute changes bonkers. Yeah, you'd also have really good on-pull damage as well. Admittedly, that first 20% goes quite quickly, especially in most cases where you pop Bloodlust on pull, but you'll still have that moment as well. Will we change weapon at fight? I doubt we'll change weapon in the middle of a fight. The reason why I think that is because Frost DK at the moment has a mechanic. If they swap from dual wield to two-hander, or two-hander to dual wield, they become staggered for 30 seconds, and their dual wield talent, or their two-handed talent, doesn't kick in for 30 seconds. And I have a feeling that if that was, if, you know, it was, I feel like we'd have something similar as Fury as well. Just to make it so that you didn't have to be swapping weapons all the time. Especially as Arms, because Arms has the bigger potential to abuse that. Simply between blunt instruments with two-handed maces and pole arms, or sharpened blades with axes and swords. Could be a thing if there's dead time mid-fight, or if there's two phases that are really hard with an easy phase in between. It could be. It could be. But I feel like Arms would make more use of that than Fury would anyway. Most likely. Unless you were literally changing to one-handed weapons right in time for execute. Because you wouldn't do it before that. There would almost be no point. Hope we never get, again, a boss like Sylvanas. Oh, with no execute phase. Yeah, I want to say that I hope they wouldn't do that again, but you never know. You never know. Is there anything about Cleave? There's some stuff in the talents. Merciless Bone Grinder, which is arms only, now includes Cleave. So my assumption is that Cleave is going to be baseline for arms. It's either going to be baseline or it's just a talent that's not yet been put into the arms side. SMF is worth swapping to, though, for the 5% movement speed. Yeah, sure. But yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I've gone through that so many times because I think that, well, firstly, I was quite happy that I spotted that part of the tooltip to begin with, but it's the only thing that makes sense for that existing. That the fact that these two tooltips are basically the same, and this one specifies one-handed where this doesn't. You know? But we'll see. And hopefully it won't take too long. Oh yeah, also fuck Signet. I don't like that this exists. Anyway, should we have a look at this stuff? What do we want to look at specifically? Oh yeah, I was watching Taulu's stream earlier, and I couldn't help but notice, but is this boss esports posing? You know that one pose that esport athletes do in every single picture with the crossed arms? He's actually flexing. I like it. You guys got Galva from Jailer? Did you do it, Vet? Did you get it? If you didn't get access to Alpha yet, then there is no chance for me to get it ever. I haven't checked in a while. I'll check now. I haven't had it so far. I think like 3 people in the guild so far have it. I'll see if anyone else has it now, actually. Yeah, there's literally only 3 people. There's only 3 people in the guild that have Alpha so far. It's Kali, Cruella, and Vossi. So, yeah. Is there anything about the loot in here yet? I kind of don't really care about the bosses and the... He looks sick, dude. I kind of don't care about the bosses and the effects, because I'll worry about them when we get closer to raid testing, because then they'll be a little bit more complete, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff missing, or a bunch of placeholder stuff. But is there anything about loot? It'll also be mostly placeholder, but at least it'll be a little bit more interesting. Is there actually nothing about the loot? I know the Dungeon Journal has some stuff in it, but why is it not on Wowhead? The only thing that matters is loot? Yeah, pretty much. Oh yeah, I guess, holy shit, he's got his chest out. Where is it? Do you think this looks cool or no? Because I really like it. And I'm hoping it's a mount when you kill the boss. Because I really want that as a mount. Do we know if they'll have drums doing more haste than now? Or do we need Shaman, Mage, Hunter, always an M+? Not sure. They haven't said anything about drums yet, I don't think. But that is something I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I think it looks cool. No Bone Grinder and Talents? Yeah, it's there. It's arms only, though. It's there. Oh, it also includes Cleave now instead of Whirlwind. Just Whirlwind, but it's nice. It's a little bit odd, but it's cool. Yeah, it's decent. Give warriors a bloodlust by shouting. Honestly, I genuinely think that bloodlust on a warrior does make sense, but you know, still to this day that we don't go any further. Any new info? Not really. You were here when we were talking about Frenzied Flurry, right? There's nothing on Thunderous Roar. Even the Wowhead tooltip has literally no information whatsoever. You were raiding? Oh. Oh boy, chat, I get to go through it again. Yay. This is this is literally something that I've been trying to hype up as much as possible because I want people to be hyped. Yo, Driller, thank you for the 6 months. Right, so you and me both noticed that Frenzied Flurry, which is higher numbers, and Sharpened Blades are exactly the same thing. Don't overhype. I am overhyping because I'm convinced that this is actually true. So Sharpened Blades, if you look at the tooltip, while using two-handed swords and axes, that's fine. Frenzied Flurry, the tooltip says two-handed swords and axes, but on the actual tooltip itself, it says it requires one-handed melee weapons. I think that is the replacement for Single-Minded Fury. And it turns one-handed Fury into an execute machine, compared to Titan's Grip, which is for kind of more spread damage across a fight. I am convinced. I'm absolutely convinced. I will fight this. I will fight this. It's 100% crit damage and 100% crit chance. Because honestly, if that was one-handers, suddenly those numbers make sense. Right? Because it's not just a raw damage increase. We'll assume that the Single-Minded Fury passive itself is just gone completely, and that will be it. But it would make sense if it's 100%. Because it's 100% crit damage, which, you know, you have to actually crit to make use of it anyway. And even if you stack crit, there's diminishing returns when you get much further into the expansion. So it's unlikely it's going to go completely out of control. Yes, you'll be guaranteeing crits on 100% of the time on execute, but it's only going to be 20%, well, 40% of a fight technically, but 100 to 80% doesn't matter. So assuming that it's 20 to 0%, dude. And if we assume that the cooldown, and if we assume that execute is made a spender for Fury again, and that the cooldown is removed from it for Fury, so the Juggernaut actually makes some fucking sense. I don't think 100% is too high. I really don't think 100% crit chance or crit damage is too high, assuming that you're going to have... Why is there a moth in my room? Assuming that you're going to have Much less weapon damage from both your weapons compared to Titan's Grip, and much less strength. Got you. I don't think it's too much. Genuinely, I don't. I think it makes sense. Also, for damage outside, and again, because you're stacking crit, for damage outside of execute, you have Cold Steel Hot Blood to try and make it, to try and keep it a little bit more relevant outside of just praying for crits on all of your abilities. Do you see? Veteran, do you see? Please tell me you see. Because I swear to God, I have gone through this about 5 or 6 times on stream, and I am absolutely convinced that this is a thing. Says HB is just so good. Well, we don't know. How are you still alive? How are you still alive? Where have you gone? It's too dark to find you. Where the fuck did you go? I'm being beaten by a moth. Anyway, for fuck's sake, go away. Oh, there you are. Yeah. I think I knocked it out. But Veteran, do you see? Please tell me you see. Please tell me you see. Honestly. I don't see any AoE improvements. No. That's the other concerning thing, actually, now that you mention it. So, it doesn't look like there's any kind of major AoE buff for Fury, but Arms specifically has a bigger Whirlwind buff, including the Whirlwind buff that is from... Not Seismic Reverb. Furious Blows, that's it. Including the Whirlwind buff from Furious Blows as well. Meaning that for Arms, Whirlwind is actually going to do something. And Arms looks like it's going to keep Cleave baseline looking at Merciless Bone Grinder. Which also makes me think that for actual AoE, Arms is going to be better than Fury. At least looking at it at the moment. Also, looking at this now as well, I wouldn't rule out... although if Bone Grinder specifies... Let's say requires Warrior, isn't specifying Arms. So something that I was thinking about before was that if they had Ravager locked only to prop, Bladestorm locked only to Arms, and then maybe bring back Odin's Fury for Fury. Maybe. Honestly, if they bring back Cold Steel Hot Blood, then why not? It would just be a watered down version of the Odin's Fury that we had in Legion. But I could see it happening. I don't know, man. That Fury will be short at AoE. I mean, to be fair, it's still going to have, assuming it's still going to have, you know, Meat Cleaver and it's just going to cleave all the time. If that still exists, then that they could be trying to make that Fury's identity and make Arm's identity be more AoE based rather than capped cleave. Oh yeah, also, if we do a crit build Veteran, then yeah, Dragon Roar is also going to be a thing, because if it crits more often, it's going to do more damage. A lot more damage. So, yeah. I don't know, man. I'm hyping. I'm honestly hyping that one build. Is there anything on this that I haven't seen? One sec, chat. I'm just checking something to see if they've added anything else. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. Legion Execute Super Saiyan Machine. A lot of it, kind of depends on one thing, and it really depends on what ends up happening with this spell. Because, as Sari was saying before, this is just the current rank 1 version of the spell. It costs rage, it has a cooldown on it. The cooldown gets removed with future ranks for arms and prot, and it becomes a generator rather than a spender for fury with future ranks. So, is this spell going to have extra ranks? If it is, will it just remain a spender for fury? Or will it have a cooldown for all 3 specs? Do I care about Paladin? No, not really. Will I be playing the Juicy Warrior again for Season 4 Raid and M+? I'll be playing it for Raid. For M+, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm assuming I probably will play it for M+, because I am going to kind of assume that I'll probably have Alpha, if not today, and it's looking unlikely to be today, then I'll have it at some point in the near future. Possibly. And then I'll be spending most of my time there anyway, so I won't care too much about Season 4. It'll mostly be a case of just doing some keys whenever I feel like doing them. So I'll probably still play Warrior regardless, but most of my time would be spent on Alpha, especially when the Warrior stuff goes live. I'm going to be looking very heavily into all of that, obviously. The Blizzard just grouped the 2 most fun Fury builds, Legion Execute and BFA Cold Steel Hot Blood. Honestly, it looks like they might have done. It looks like they might have done. Also, on the subject of Fury AoE, again, from what we were saying before, if Cold Steel Hot Blood is even remotely well-tuned, then Cold Steel did a lot of damage on AoE in BFA. As long as you were critting enough, like, you could move around a pack and make sure that you applied Cold Steel to as many different targets as possible with every single Bloodthirst. So, honestly, the cleave damage and those extra dots could still equal a decent amount of damage, but it has to be tuned well enough. Whether it will be or not is a different matter, but we'll see. We'll see. With Cold Steel Hot Blood, then you use Bladestorm as Signet. If we have Bladestorm, but it's a big if. I've no idea if Fury will have access to Bladestorm right now. That's part of the problem. We know that Arms will, because Bone Grinder is literally 4 arms. So we know that Arms will have access to it. But we don't know about Fury yet. Other thing that will be more talents and stuff? Yeah. I imagine we're probably not getting any more in the way of talents until I imagine we're not going to get anything more in the way of talents until literally next week when they do another update, is my assumption. Maybe if I'd have to use Whirlwind, it deals damage to more targets. I'm not sure I get what you mean. But we also have Seismic Reverb as a talent, and the more I think about it, the more having it as a talent makes sense, and it's less of a waste compared to having it as a legendary right now. Because this is part of the problem. Right now, Seismic Reverb is bad, partially because it is fairly bad anyway, but because it's a legendary, it's fighting for a spot with Signet. But the assumption is that you can probably have Signet and Seismic Reverb together. Which if you can, for Arms, that's quite big. With all the Whirlwind damage buffs that they've got. And then potentially being able to activate it twice, assuming that Arms still has access to Avatar. Which I'm assuming they do. Having hack and slash with onslaught and cold steel hot blood is like so many raging blows, no skipping on bloodthirst, another GCD for onslaught sometimes. I think you would most on AoE you don't care that much about your abilities. You could probably miss raging blows. Like I don't think you would care. It's like at the moment you don't care too much about pressing many bloodthirsts other than to force an enrage on yourself in AoE. Other than that, you're just trying to fish for 4-set procs with Raging Blow. Watch Ravager get fixed? What, with Bone Grinder? I hope so. Oh yeah, also we all have access to Thunderclap now as well, so yay. Well, it causes your next 2 spells to delay redemption up to 4 targets. Maybe if they increase the number to 6 or 7, it could help Fury to have more consistent DPS on bigger pulls. Possibly. I remember seeing there was a suggestion that Syl was saying that was in the Skyhold about Merciless Bone Grinder, and the way to change it for Fury would be when Bladestorm ends, it just uncaps the Whirlwind Cleave for X number of seconds after it. And I feel like that would have been really good. But clearly the intention is to only have it available for arms, which I guess is fine. I like that it's... If it is only going to be available for arms, then they've done the right thing adding cleave into it as well. But, yeah. My only concern about this now is that you're still going to be a bit fucked on cleave damage, because given that it's for such a short duration, any global that isn't Whirlwind or cleave is kind of wasted. But that also means that you can't have cleaves with stacked up overpowers, which is kind of upsetting. If they extended that a little bit, then it would feel a lot better. Like, I would like to see that be closer to 15 seconds. And I don't even think it would be that outrageous. Because we'll assume that the cooldown of Bladestorm is going to be the same. It's going to be 1.5 minutes right now. And let's assume that anger management isn't available for arms. It probably will be, and it might just be part of the warrior talent tree, but assuming that it isn't. Because Fury can go Dragon Roar? Fury going Dragon Roar makes no difference whatsoever. It's still capped on AoE. That was one of the first things I noticed. The only thing they've changed about Dragon Roar, the damage is still exactly the same. It's still got the same range, not that that matters. It's still capped on AoE, and it generates 20 rage now instead of 10. But that's the only change that it made. So it's like, clearly their idea for Dragon Roar is to be a single target ability with a tiny bit of AoE use. But having Odin's Fury would make sense. Again, if you have only Bladestorm for arms, only Ravager for prot, and Odin's Fury for Fury. And then suddenly all 3 specs have that one iconic ability that fits their spec just fine. But then it also wouldn't make sense, Merciless Bone Grinder, as it is right now, including Ravager in it, unless the tooltip is literally just a carbon copy of what we have on live, with the value removed. Which it could be, to be fair. And Spear. True, we are also keeping Spear. And Spear for Fury is quite big. Because under Recklessness, you're pretty much... not quite anymore. Because it's only going to do 25 rage. I guess with Piercing Verdict, you are almost guaranteeing yourself another Rampage. Oh yeah, there's also no crit damage on Spear anymore. You don't have to stand it, at least judging from the look of it at the moment, unless they add it as another passive somewhere in a tree. Yeah, there's no crit damage from standing in Spear anymore, which is good. Yeah, it's pretty good. The plus 30 rage talent is huge. Is it though? It's fairly big for prot, because it allows you to pull more rage before taunting, so you've got more resources just to live. It's really good for PvP, because Ignore Pain is now only going to have a 1-second cooldown. But for arms, it's just more rage to starve with. Unless this really does a really good job of staving off rage starvation. The only time it's going to be of any use is when you Bladestorm. So you won't have to worry about overcapping. But that's barely even a concern right now. Honestly think Deadly Calm should be changed. Still don't understand why you would remove the crit damage from here, but that's fine, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, man. Are we even going to reach 100 Rage or Mortal Strike resetting its CD and Bone Grinder? Well, I don't know. I think you possibly could. I think one thing needs to change in particular, though, if that's going to happen, and this needs to refund the rage as well as reset the cooldown. Legit. If that refunded the rage as well as reset the cooldown, then it would be fine. But, yeah. Don't know why it's not Mortal Combo. Yeah, I don't know either. Especially if overpower stacks are still going to be a thing, right? Because if overpower stacks are still going to be a thing, then you go from one Mortal Strike, maybe with double overpower stacks, into Mortal Strike resets, and then you want to use it immediately to get it back on cooldown, and it's going to have no stacks. Why people saying SMF is back when that talent is set as two-handed weapons, because of... I love going into this. Because of where it says on the tooltip, requires one-handed melee weapon. Yes, it says while using two-handed swords, but I honestly feel that that's just a copy-pasted version of the Sharpened Blades tooltip. And it's meant to be with one-handed weapons, and it's going to be the Single-Minded Fury replacement. Because at the moment, there is nothing for Single-Minded Fury. At the moment. There could still be, and I could be wrong, but yeah, that's why I'm hyping it up so much. There's a lot of other reasons why I'm hyping it up so much, but I won't go into it again for the, 8th time. I just feel like this could be really good. I have gone into that a lot at the moment, though, because I am really excited about it. Hype because it looks like Arms gets another CD. What with Thunderous Roar? Yeah, I was going to say my concern about it, but it's not really a concern. I'm just wondering if that means that they are kind of doubling down on dot-based gameplay for Arms. Because you literally have 3 dots right here. You have Deep Wounds, Rend, and Thunderous Roar. But then again, it could literally just be a case of Deep Wounds is going to be up all the time because you're pressing Mortal Strike. Rend is the only one that you actually need to continually maintain, and Thunderous Roar is just a bleed that comes as a result of using a cooldown and won't be something that you can actually keep up permanently. But we'll see. We'll see. Or Thunderous Roar be a bleed from Thunderclap? Somehow I doubt it. Yeah, I don't know. Everything that we've got at the moment, because it's all data mined, it just leaves a lot of questions, but those questions will be answered pretty quickly the moment that we actually get the talent trees themselves and we can see what goes where. Maybe a dot from Spear? I doubt it. I feel it is going to be its own ability. It will be its own ability. given that it says Thunderous Roar's bleed effect, so it's a bleed that belongs to the ability Thunderous Roar, at least by how I read it anyway. But my assumption is also that I don't know, man. I actually don't know. I'm really interested to see what that ability is, for sure. Maybe new spell while leveling? Potentially. I feel like it's more likely to be a Arms Warrior talent, though. I think there are going to be some legendary items or something like that. Oh yeah, for sure. There'll be legendaries. There'll be legendaries, there'll be tier sets. Yeah, there'll be all sorts of stuff like that. And then that'll obviously add even more flavor to all the specs, I suppose. I don't know, man. Just like single-minded Fury crit build. Yeah. At the moment, as much as I find some of the stuff in here more entertaining than some of the stuff here, like, yeah, just that alone has me just... That will be the first thing... If I'm right, that'll be the first thing I try when Warrior comes out. If I'm right. Wonder how Cold Steel's going to be tuned? Yeah. Me too. Me too. In his views that we're going to have legendaries like Shadowmourne and Catastaff and Dagger, so some classes can have that. What, really? See, there's the other problem. Like, I don't want two-handed weapons or one-handed weapons with special effects on them unless they are two-handed and one-handed versions of the same effect. Otherwise, it's literally just going to skew it quite fucking hard. But, yeah. We will see. We will see. They need to have two-handed and one-handed special effects with around same strength, if not the same weapon. They need to have two-handed and one-handed special effects with around same strength, if not the same weapon. I don't get what you mean. If you get a legendary weapon, it's the wrong weapon type. That's actually, yeah, that would be horrible. Has all my talk about it had that part removed? Is that Blizzard telling me to go fuck myself? I bet it is as well. I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm gonna hold on to the thought. I'm gonna hold on to the thought. I don't care. I don't care. I'm gonna hold on to the thought. Because it's the only thing that fucking makes sense. It's the only thing that makes sense. You have the same weapon on 100 and 200 if it has a special... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it doesn't even need to be the same weapon. It just needs to be a similar effect. Because the idea would be whatever single-minded Fury replacement they have in mind would be the balance between SMF and Titan's Grip. What's better for two-handers? Well, the thought would be that it was sharpened blades. So it's effectively the same buff, just lower numbers. Because the two-handers have higher strength and higher weapon damage as baseline. But since you said that the Frenzied Flurry tooltip got changed, it did, and that makes me concerned. But I'm still willing to hold on to the thought that it's still what they've intended. Because, man, it would actually make sense and it would actually be good. The tooltip changed, yeah. I refreshed it and the tooltip's changed. That means it's for two-handers. But it can't be because the amounts are too high. There's literally no point in having this and having this, because they are for the same weapon types, and these numbers are just higher than these numbers. It doesn't make sense. So I'm still holding on to the thought that this is literally for one-handers. I'm holding on to that thought. Just assume it's 10%. But it wouldn't explain this part though, right? Because the sharpened blades version is 20. I could assume it for execute crit chance being 10%. That would make sense to me. But if it's anything like other tooltips we've seen, then that should be 200%. And that should be 20, wherever it is. That one. They wouldn't say flurry with two-hander. Yeah, also the name of the talent doesn't make sense if we're thinking thematically. Maybe it's 10% and an additional 20%. So you mean flurry would be the baseline version with 10% each, and then sharpened blades would be the improved version with 20% extra crit damage and 10% extra execute crit chance. Yeah, maybe. Got the bleed amps I wanted for arms. Yeah, that's quite interesting. It does look like they're going to be trying to make arms a pseudo bleed spec again. Or that the numbers are not final and it's the first alpha build. I mean, all this time that has been at the back of my mind, sorry, but I've refused to accept it because of my absolute obsession with making this the single-minded Fury replacement. You cannot tell me it wouldn't make sense. It would make so much sense. It would make so much sense, dude. The numbers didn't even seem that like radical either. 100% crit chance and 100% crit damage, making it an execute specific monster, like fucking yes. That Bladestorm tooltip down here is nonsense? Where? Is there a Bladestorm tooltip now? Where is it? Oh, the one that extends its time. Yeah. The yeah. I don't know. We'll see exactly what those numbers end up becoming. Yeah. I don't know. Harrisai, thank you for the 5 gifted, dude. Appreciate that, man. Hope you're doing good. Works good with the Ravager? Yeah. Ravager's just a very simplified version. Give me a second here to turn a light on. Yeah, the Ravager's just an incredibly simplified version. Oh. There we go. Alright, we back. I mean, I see what they're trying to do with Bladestorm, but we were talking about this before as well. That almost entirely changes where you would want to use Bladestorm in a pack. Because you would want to use it as things are beginning to die. Unless you could guarantee that you could get 2 Bladestorms in a pack, but assuming it's a 1.5-minute cooldown baseline, and assuming that arms, specifically arms, we're talking about here, not Fury, because the extensions for Fury really wouldn't make sense, because you're going to drop in Rage, so you're going to want to cancel it anyway. And if Bladestorm for Fury still generated Rage, then it would feel horrific. But specifically for arms, you would want to use it at the end of a pack. Like, nothing about that makes sense. Did we get new info? The only new info we got is that they've updated the Frenzied Flurry tooltip to not specify requiring one-handed weapons anymore. Someone's trying to kill my fun. actually genuinely feels like they're trying to kill my fun as well. I'm still holding on to that being a one-handed talent. I'm still 100% holding on to that. Until I see a version of Single-Minded Fury, I'm always going to assume that that is the replacement for SMF. Have I got the alpha? Not the last time I checked. I'll check again. It's very unlikely that I get into the alpha, but we'll see. Sorry, one-handers give you leech talent? Yeah, it's the one-handed specialization. But that was there before anyway. But that could also very much specifically be for prot. If they didn't have a thought in mind to try... Nope, still no alpha. Yeah, I'm not getting it today. Maybe next week. But yeah. If they didn't have a replacement for Single-Minded Fury in mind, then that would just be for prot. For sure. But I'm still holding on to Single-Minded Fury being a thing. I swear to God. I'm not gonna give up the dream. I'm not gonna give up that dream. Not until I see something that actually genuinely kills it. But yeah. What about PvP Berserker stands? No shot. I don't think there's any chance we get Berserker stands back, as much as I would like it, to be fair. I miss taking calculated amounts of damage just to maximize the rage income. That was so fun. That was so fun. Is there anything else that's really interesting? Not really. Oh yeah, as we were talking about before, like, if you played in Legion, you know precisely how strong this could be, potentially. But, yeah. That could honestly be really good. Still not going to say it. What I want is SMF and the ability to mod glaives. I mean, sure, why not? Why not? Like called Steel Hot Blood. A lot of people did. A lot of people did because it was really strong at the time. Whether it's tuned to be good enough now, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Can I explain Focus and Chaos? So, baseline when dual wielding, your auto attacks have a chance to miss. I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but your auto attacks can miss when you're dual wielding. This just means that when you're under enrage, your auto attacks will always hit. And when you consider how much of your damage comes from auto attacks at the end of a fight, if you imagine all of them hitting, it can add up quite substantially. Not to mention that every missed auto attack for Fury is a little bit of wasted rage as well. You don't notice it a huge amount, because not a lot of your rage comes from auto attacks, but guaranteeing that it hits all the time is... It does make a substantial difference, even if you can't see it. Remember back in Legion, I was so hyper focus and chaos, it was so good. It is good, yeah. We've had some bosses since Legion. We've had a couple of bosses where you're you have a couple of bosses where you couldn't miss your auto attacks, and they were Halondrus and Nazoth. And if you played Fury on those fights, there was a noticeable difference. A noticeable difference. It's really good. it's honestly so good. It's really underrated. And Stormwall Blockade, you're the second phase of it, yeah. You're absolutely right. That's true. Yeah, it's normally exceptionally big bosses that don't have a designated front to parry from. So Halondrus is one of them because it didn't really have a front. Stormwall Blockade had a front, but you couldn't get behind it anyway, so it just never parried. Yeah. I haven't played Alondris in ages. Dude, swear to God. You get some really mad single target builds out of Fury at the moment. Yeah, you really can. You really can. Yeah, the more I look at it, the more there are some fairly interesting things in here. I still want to see what kind of execute numbers we can pull off with Fatality, though. Like, honestly, some potentially humongous execute crits going on here. I wonder if this is going to be quite niche, though. It's probably a no-brainer for... It's probably a no-brainer for Prog. Just like Inkpod was, but yeah. Get them also refund RNG? Yeah. I still think that, I don't know, man. It's just so weird. Honestly, I think that on its own is going to be, like, bad. Still think it needs to refund the rage. Yeah, it's 100% Inkpod. You think Cadence is any good? No, because it requires 100% uptime in order to, well, effectively 100% uptime in order to not be a waste. And the chances of that happening in Prog are potentially quite slim. We'd have to see the bosses first, but it also takes quite a while to ramp up. Unless, obviously, you were taking... There is talent that reduces the cooldown of Bloodthirst by a second, which is quite big given the flat cooldown of Bloodthirst itself. But it still takes quite a while to ramp up. But if you could maintain it the whole time, it could be fine, I guess. If it's an easy enough talent to reach, then there's probably no point in not taking it, you know? It could be decent. It's a better... I honestly think this is better than Frenzy, though, because it doesn't lock you to one target. And I'm hoping Frenzy doesn't make a return. I despise... It either needs to not make a return, or it needs to be not restrictive on how you refresh it. And you need to be able to refresh it on rampaging anything, rather than just your main target. So Warrior looks decent. DK's looking booty cheeks, need a new main. From a strength point of view, I couldn't even begin to say, but they are looking fun. Warrior's looking like it's got some interesting stuff for both DPS specs. I haven't looked too much into prop because I don't give a shit. I'll look at that more when Warrior's actually on alpha. But yeah, we'll see. Frosty KAE does look nuts. I did look through that the other day, actually. There's so much good shit that they get all in one side of the tree. It's kind of mad. Need to unnerf Cadence back to 3% per stack. Yeah, it was 3% per stack and stacking to 4 times, was it? Or 3 times? I don't remember. But I remember the old version of it. It also used to stack up multiple stacks on one Whirlwind Bloodthirst, which I would wish they would bring back. That was the one thing that made this actually really good in M+. You had so much free haste, like, instantly. Which is really good for the cleave, to be fair. Warrior's always strong. I mean, it kinda true. Even in Castle Nathria, where they did suck ass, they were still really good in some cases. Most notably on the last boss, so yeah, that's kind of what matters. Even if it was 2 stacks instantly better than what it is right now, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Just looking through them again to see if there's anything really that I've missed. Not really. I think that Vicious, unless Actually, no. Yeah, Vicious Contempt needs a buff. That's going to be mostly useless compared to what Vicious Contempt can reach right now. It wouldn't need that much of a buff, but I'd like to see it do more. But the CDR talent reduces the cooldown by less than a GCD, so to make use of it you would have to delay an ability which goes against the idea of Fury. Bloodthirst CDR talent reduces the cooldown by less than a GCD. That's really awkward then. Improved Bloodthirst is doing most of it. I'm assuming that the improved Bloodthirst, though, is a replacement for the flat Bloodthirst damage increase that you get from leveling at the moment, though. And it's what? Is it 20 or 30% that you get at the moment from leveling? I don't remember off the top of my head. But I'm assuming that that's a replacement for it. Meaning that you're effectively at roughly the same value anyway, and this is just worse. SQ rotation is going to look like Rampage, Execute, BT, because Raging Blow is kind of useless. Yeah. Unless there's more to come with Raging Blow that just hasn't been released yet. Also, Vet, we were talking about the fact that this Frothing Berserker change is implying that something else for Fury is going to cost Rage. Because it's removed Rampage as the only thing it was affecting and has now started specifying your abilities in general. Now, if you're a Doomer like Sari, then you would believe that it's Slam and Hamstring and Ignore Pain, but, yes, we all agree that it's probably Execute. And we hope that it's Execute. But the other problem is that the tooltip on Execute at the moment is having a 6-second cooldown as well as costing Rage. Now, hopefully an extra rank of Execute removes the cooldown, and we literally can just spam it, and the hope is that, because these are mostly unfinished right now, the hope is that Old Legion Massacre makes a return to actually give Fury a proper Execute phase again. But they could also just do none of that and still have Execute as a Fury generator for no reason whatsoever. And then that Frothing Berserker change is literally for Ignore Pain, to make it less punishing potentially if you have to use it. But I prefer to believe that it's for Execute, and that Execute's actually going to be spammable again. Oh yeah, there is also a Heroic Strike ID on the Dragonflight Wowhead beta section, as Sari has linked. But I have a feeling that that's going to be for Prot only, in the same way that Guardian Druid has Maul. Rename Slam to Heroic Strike, easy fix, everyone happy. It wouldn't be the same if it's not off global. Strike is going to return the need buff Arms Rage Gen. It won't be for Arms. I don't think any shot it'll be for Arms. I think if anything it'll be for either Fury and they'll just alter how Rampage works, or it's going to be for Prot and it will only be for Prot, which also kind of makes sense. One-handed weapon specialization in DWSMF? What do you mean, crashed? That heroic ID was added in Classic 18 years ago? Yeah, but the fact is that it's still there. There's always hope, sorry. There's always hope. Won't have any issues about sustain? No, not at all. I mean, with Cold Steel Hot Blood alone, we'll be fine. Genuinely. Did we get anything new? The only thing that's new is that they've altered the tooltip for Frenzied Flurry, and it doesn't specify one-handers anymore. But that's it. The ring by Hero Strike, that'll be the final nail in the coffin for me, not gonna lie. Even if it was Prot only? Do I think the stats in the warrior tree are placeholders? No. I think some of them might be, because there are some that are duplicates. Like, you've got these two here together that are both crit chance by 2%. I think there's also 2 versatility ones, Valor in Victory and Adaptive Teachings. One of those is probably a placeholder. But not all of them will be. Like, the Mastery one makes sense, the Parry one kinda makes sense, Stamina makes sense. There's a bunch of Stamina and Armor ones, and a bunch of, like, Armor ones specifically, and stuff like that, which might be placeholder, but yeah. Roguestrike.org, God bless. I put a post on there. I might go back and see if I can find it. What about defensive things? Do you think we will keep or improve that in any way? I think we're mostly staying the same. We're keeping Spell Reflect, which is huge. We're keeping Ignore Pain, and Ignore Pain's cooldown is being reduced baseline to 1 second. So it's actually going to be spammable now. Not that you would want to. And you have the option for Brutal Vitality, the current conduit, as well, from the... potentially from the talents, if you can reach it without being protside. Could they just stop paying to keep the sights up? How dare he? How dare he? What's going to be the passive for Arm/Fury, because Tactician is on Warrior Tree. Tactician, Sari noticed, is no longer there? Oh, there it is, exploit the weakness. He noticed that it was on the tooltip specifically for arms. So chances are that's not actually there, and it's actually there. But it's a shame, because exploit the weakness would kind of make sense for all 3 specs, because for arms it would refresh overpower. For prot it could refresh either, I don't know, shield slam maybe, or revenge. Probably shield slam I think would make more sense. And for fury it would just be a hack and slash replacement, and it would refresh Raging Blow. Because at the moment we don't have that. And I feel like it's something that Blizzard's crazy obsession with Raging Blow, they would probably look to put in. I mean, they've still given us potentially 3 charges of Raging Blow anyway, so yeah, why not? The way in big packs is to ignore pain and then throw out the deeps. I mean, it is at the moment anyway, especially as arms. Like, as arms in big packs, when you go in, you pop all your cooldowns, and during Blade Storm, to stop yourself from overcapping, you use an ignore pain. And that's it. And that should be enough to stop you from overcapping during the Blade Storm. Is off GCD? Mm-hmm. Yep. You're so happy if RB becomes filler? Yeah, I've kind of had enough of it being a big focal point. But at the same time, I don't really like Rampage being the focal point either. I was kind of hoping for some kind of rework of Fury. That's part of why I got so excited about Frenzied Flurry possibly being the new single-minded Fury thing, because we'd actually have an execute-based build again. So it would just be about, like, struggling to keep yourself relevant for... It's basically like Eternal Palace Arms. Struggle to keep yourself relevant for the first, 80%-ish of a fight. Hit execute, and then just go ham and top meters anyway. That was what I was excited for. So, yeah. Overall available in terms of stats. I mean, there will be a lot of points. But I do think that some of those duplicates will be removed as placeholders. I could be wrong. Let's put it this way, they clearly didn't have many ideas for what to give warriors as a whole, considering that we also have things like Dauntless Duelist, and, where is it? Inspiring Presence makes sense. Pain and Gain, that's the one. The fact that they gave us the the very fact that they gave us fucking Condensed Animosphere as a defensive in the Warrior tree is actually quite big. I don't know if any other class is going to get that, but the fact that we've got it is massive. Is that Legion Juggernaut? Yeah, it's the exact same. It is the exact same. But it does raise questions, Jerv. We don't know whether the Fury Execute is still going to have a cooldown or not. If it doesn't, and if it becomes a spender again, Juggernaut's good. If Fury Execute keeps its current design, then it's kind of meh, and it doesn't matter. So it's raising more questions than it's answering. Stacking crit and BFA. There's still every possibility that it comes back. Again, if I'm right about Single-Minded Fury, or Frenzied Flurry, or whatever it's called, then there's every possibility it comes back. Because a crit build almost makes sense with Cold Steel Hot Blood coming back. Because now there's a reason for critting Bloodthirsts if it's going to leave a dot as well. And then you can kind of argue that it'll make Dragon Roar a little bit more, I don't know, important, I guess. Or at least it'll make it do damage. Deadly Calm, Punishment, Execute, Spam 100 to 80 and 20 to 0. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Deadly Calm should be closer to Lucid Dreams rather than, I feel like Deadly Calm should be closer to Lucid Dreams than to its current iteration. Want to see Thunderous Roar for Arms? Yeah. Yeah, me too. Especially since it looks like Arms is not getting Avatar as a baseline cooldown, because it's, at the moment at least, it's listed under the talents. Obviously, again, data mine stuff, we don't know for sure, but it kind of makes sense. Meaning that Arms needs a baseline cooldown, and I swear to God, if it's Bladestorm again, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. I'm very surprised they kept Deadly Calm. I'm very surprised they kept Deadly Calm as well as removing the rage from it. Removing the rage makes sense, but when they remove the rage, what's the point in just having this? Unless they reduce the cooldown of Deadly Calm to something like 45 seconds. Basically to line up with every single, every single Colossus smash. That would make more sense. The Sub 10 Bladestorm isn't going to be baseline for Arms. Oh, I know Bladestorm's going to be baseline for Arms. It's just I don't want that to be the only cooldown that's baseline for Arms in the same way that it is right now. So if Thunderous Roar is, let's say, a proper cooldown, then yeah. Avatar and Deadly Calm together seems interesting. Again, if Deadly Calm was 45 seconds instead of a minute, it would make sense. Would it? No, actually, it would make even less sense. Avatar would have to be a minute and a half instead of 2. Nah. DC would be insane if it was a duration thing instead of just ability usage. Deadly Calm... I would say Deadly Calm also needs to not prevent Tactician from proccing. It's not 1.5. I don't remember what it is. It is 1.5, isn't it? It is 1.5. Yeah, it's not 2 minutes, it's 1.5. You're right. I'm wrong. I want to believe it's 2 minutes because then it would actually have a better use. But yeah, I hate 0.5 minutes and cooldowns. I think it's absolutely garbage. Wonder if Bone Grinder is still going to be the same value as now. Somehow, I think it's going to be lower. Somehow, I think it's going to be a bit lower. I'm also still hoping that we see flat damage buffs to cleave. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. The number of abilities that we've had that have just had flat damage increases is kind of mental. Mortal Strike is big. Skull Splitter was in here as well. Skull Splitter got a big damage buff. Stormbolt got a damage buff. Smile. Cleave increases whirlwind damage for each targeted hit, stacking up to 5 times. I still want to see. I still want to see Cleave itself actually do damage, but yeah, I don't know. 1.5 CDs makes sense if you have a second big CD that's 3 minutes. Well, for arms it goes completely the opposite way, because you have our big CD at 1.5 minutes and then a smaller CD at 45 seconds. Still why I think Deadly Calm should be 45-second CD rather than 1 minute, but, you know. No Focus Rage? No, that's true. But it was always fairly unlikely that we would get that back, I guess. It would have been nice, though. Who's that copy pasta from? The Mortal Strike buff is good. The Mortal Strike buff is good, but it's weird when they've added another bleed. Oh yeah, also, Vet, I love the fact that the one thing